The email came at 9:17 on a Tuesday morning with the subject line, "Final rehearsal schedule. Please read." Owen had typed "please" in capital letters, which was how my son communicated urgency without admitting he was nervous. I opened the attachment at my kitchen table between a cooling cup of coffee and the grocery list I'd started on the back of an envelope. The schedule was 4 pages long and color-coded. Rachel's family was blue, the wedding party was green, vendors were gray, transportation was yellow. I searched for my name. There it was on page 3, below the hired shuttle and above the roadside assistance number. June Mercer, standby driver. Remain available at hotel. Keep phone on. A smaller note underneath said I should eat before reporting because I might miss the first part of the rehearsal dinner. I read that line 3 times. The chapel processional had Rachel's parents, her sisters, Owen's closest friends, and an empty place marked for his father. My husband had a place in my son's wedding. I had a full tank of gas. For a few seconds, all I heard was the refrigerator humming behind me. Then the ice maker dropped a tray with a crash that made me jump. I printed the schedule because paper makes some things easier to believe. The printer coughed out the pages crooked, and I stood there smoothing each one against the counter as if the problem might be a wrinkle. It wasn't. There was Rachel's mother, Louise, scheduled for makeup at 12:30, photographs at 3:45, and the processional at 5:15. Rachel's father, Bill, was supposed to be in the chapel vestibule by 5:05. Her sisters had appointments, bouquets, photographs, and places at dinner. I had remained available at hotel. I went back to page 1 and checked the date. October 18th, Wright wedding. Then I checked whether there was another June among the guests because apparently humiliation makes you stupid in very specific ways. There wasn't. I called Owen. He answered on the 4th ring. "Hey, Mom, everything okay? In our family? Everything okay?" Didn't mean he wanted to hear about everything. It meant I was calling at a time when he hadn't expected to need me. "I got your schedule." "Great. Make sure you save it. Rachel's going to send an updated seating chart later, but the timing should be locked." Locked. That's what the planner says. I could hear keys clicking on his end. Owen worked from home 3 days a week, though his version of working from home involved answering me with half his brain and telling me later that we'd never discuss something. I'm listed as the standby driver. The keys stopped for maybe 1 second. Yeah, that's just in case. In case of what? I don't know. Wedding stuff. That narrows it down. "Mom," I'm asking. He exhaled into the phone. In case somebody misses the shuttle or something needs to go from the hotel to the restaurant. The garment bags, maybe. It's not a big thing. Where am I during the rehearsal? At the hotel, I guess. You guess? Just until we know everybody's where they need to be. I ran my finger down the page. It says I should eat beforehand because I may miss dinner. That was probably Rachel. The speed with which he offered her name bothered me almost as much as the schedule. The email came from you. I sent it. I didn't write every note. Who wrote my note? There was another pause, longer this time. I did, but I was putting in what we talked about. You and Rachel, and the planner. "Mom, I'm in the middle of something." I looked at the envelope beside my coffee. Milk, coffee filters, lemons. Pick up Owen's extra suit shirt. I drew a line through the last item. "What am I doing in the wedding?" I asked. "You'll be there." That's not what I asked. I don't know what you mean. I mean, where do I stand? When do we take a picture? Am I part of the processional? Do I sit with the family? Of course you sit with the family. Where? The chapel isn't that big. Owen. What? Where is my place? He made the sound he used when an app wouldn't load fast enough. Why does everything need a title? That was the moment. Not the yellow box. Not the instruction to eat alone. Not even the empty place for Paul. It was my son asking why I needed a title on a document where every person except me had one. I folded the printed schedule once, neatly, though there was no reason to fold it. "Owen, I'm going to let you get back to work. Okay, we'll talk later." He sounded relieved. That was the worst part. I hung up and sat at the table until my coffee went cold. Paul would have known what to say, which didn't mean it would have been helpful. My husband had been dead 11 years, and I still caught myself inventing his side of an argument. He would have leaned against the sink and said, "June, you're reading too much into a spreadsheet." Then, if he'd seen my face, he would have read the spreadsheet himself, gotten very quiet, and gone outside to reorganize the garage. Paul's anger always became shelving. There was a photograph of him on the bookcase, taken the summer before he got sick. He was wearing a ridiculous straw hat he'd bought at a roadside stand and insisting it made him look like a gentleman farmer. "You got a place in the processional," I told the photograph. "Try not to be smug." The joke landed badly in an empty room. Until that morning, I believed I had handled Owen's wedding with unusual restraint. When he called to tell me he and Rachel were engaged, I didn't ask whether they had set a date before I congratulated them. I didn't mention that they'd been dating only 18 months. I didn't ask whether Rachel's first marriage had made her wary of doing the whole production again. I said, "Are you happy?" He said, "I really am, Mom." That was enough for me. It still was. Rachel was 38, direct without being cruel, and much funnier when Louise wasn't around. She worked in medical billing and had the unnerving ability to remember the exact date of any conversation. The first time we met, she brought me a lemon cake and then apologized because the icing had shifted in the car. I liked her before I knew whether she liked me. Louise was more difficult, though not in any way I could complain about without sounding petty. She sent handwritten thank you notes. She knew how much to tip. She touched my forearm when I spoke and then interrupted me with excellent posture. At the dress shop, Louise had looked at my navy dress and said, "That photographs beautifully." Not you look beautiful. The dress photographed beautifully. Rachel had caught my eye in the mirror and said, "It also looks good on the human being wearing it." Louise laughed. I laughed. The saleswoman laughed harder than any of us because commission-based diplomacy is a demanding art. That afternoon, Rachel asked if I wanted to join them for lunch. I did, and for an hour I felt included. Then Louise spread a notebook beside her salad and began reviewing hotel gift bags. "June, you're local," she said. "Would you know where to get 24 small bottles of water without paying hotel prices?" "At a grocery store." She blinked at me. Rachel choked on a crouton. I ended up offering to pick them up anyway. That was the trouble with me. I could recognize a trap, make a joke about the trap, and then step into it carrying bottled water. Being useful had always come naturally. When Owen was in college, he used to say I could hear a problem through 2 closed doors. After Paul died, errands became the language Owen and I spoke most fluently. He called if he needed somebody at his apartment while the plumber came. I called if I found chicken breasts on sale. He changed the batteries in my smoke detectors twice a year. I kept the name of his dentist taped inside a cabinet because he always forgot it. We weren't distant. At least I hadn't thought we were. But sitting there with that schedule, I tried to remember the last time Owen had called me without driving somewhere, fixing something, or needing an answer. The doorbell rang at 11. A delivery man stood on my porch beside 4 brown boxes. June Mercer? Yes. These are heavy. He wasn't exaggerating. We wrestled them inside one at a time and stacked them near the coat closet. The labels were addressed to me, but beneath my name someone had added, "Wedding hold for Owen." I signed his screen. "Big event?" he asked. "My son's getting married." "Congratulations, thank you." He nodded toward the boxes. "They're always bigger than you think." After he left, I opened the top box. Inside were flat white cartons, rolls of ribbon, packets of tissue paper, and 200 little silver stickers printed with Owen and Rachel's initials. On top was a sticky note in Rachel's handwriting. "Thank you for saving us. Assembly instructions coming soon." I hadn't agreed to assemble anything. I took a picture and sent it to Owen. "What are these?" He replied 6 minutes later. "Favors." "Thought Rachel told you." She didn't. The 3 dots appeared, vanished, then appeared again. "Could you keep them there for now? We're out of room." That was true. Owen and Rachel's townhouse had 1 garage bay and too much furniture. Under any normal circumstances, storing 4 boxes for 6 weeks would not have bothered me. But the boxes had arrived less than 2 hours after I discovered I was supposed to spend the rehearsal waiting in a parking lot. I typed, "Am I assembling them?" His answer came quickly. "If you have time." No pressure. No pressure was one of Owen's favorite phrases. It meant he wanted something but preferred not to experience himself asking for it. I put the phone down without replying. At noon, my sister Carol called. Carol was 71, widowed, and believed every emotional crisis should first be assessed for low blood sugar. "You sound strange," she said. "Have you eaten?" I had toast. Toast is an activity, not a meal. I'm listed as standby driver at Owen's wedding rehearsal. There was silence. Then she said, "What?" I read her the entry. Carol asked me to send the schedule, so I did. I listened to her open it on her tablet and mutter while she scrolled. "Oh, this is nasty. It might just be thoughtless. Thoughtless is when someone forgets to buy ice. This required formatting." I laughed before I meant to. Carol continued, "Rachel's cousin has a 12-minute slot for a reading. Bill has 7 minutes to adjust his pocket square. Paul, who is dead, has a place at 5:15. Your roadside assistance with lipstick. Don't make me laugh. I'm trying to decide how upset I'm allowed to be. You're always allowed to be upset. The question is what you do while upset." That was annoyingly reasonable, especially from Carol. I told her about the call with Owen and the boxes by my closet. I did not tell her that I had already checked the price of a second shuttle. $480 for the rehearsal evening, more if it ran late. I could afford it. That wasn't the point. I also could have driven. That wasn't the point either. "What do you want?" Carol asked. I looked at the yellow box around my name. I want my son to notice what he did without me having to bleed on the paper. Carol sighed. "That may not be one of the available choices." At 2:30, Owen texted again. "You okay?" I stared at the question. Then another message appeared. "Also, can you pick up my extra shirt by Friday? They close at 6. I took a slow breath, reached for the printed schedule, and unfolded it on the table. For the first time in years, I did not answer my son immediately. At 3:15, I answered the question about his shirt. "I can't pick it up Friday. You'll need to make another arrangement," he called before the message showed as read. "What's Friday?" "Your shirt." "Oh. Are you busy?" "I have a dentist appointment at 3. That's not until 3. The tailor is 40 minutes in the other direction. You could go before." "I could." "I'm not going to." Silence settled between us. I could picture his face. Owen had Paul's dark eyebrows, and when he was confused, the left one rose higher than the right. Paul's had done the same thing whenever I suggested we move furniture. "Is this because of the schedule?" he asked. "It's because you asked whether I had time after assuming I did. I asked you last week. You said the shirt would be ready and that you might need help. You did not ask me to get it." "Okay, can you please get the shirt?" "No." The word came out so cleanly that it surprised both of us. Owen lowered his voice. "So this is because of the schedule?" "Yes, partly. Mom, I told you it's not a big deal. That's what you think I'm upset about. The driving? What else is there? I'm not in the rehearsal. I'm not in the family photographs. I'm supposed to eat by myself, then sit at a hotel in case somebody needs a ride. You are in the photographs. Which ones?" "The family ones." "What time?" A faint clicking started again. He was looking at the schedule. 4, probably. At 4, the schedule says I'm supposed to take the decorations from the restaurant to the hotel. That can be moved. "Owen, where am I listed for photographs?" He searched long enough to answer the question without speaking. Finally, he said, "It must have been left off." "So was the processional left off? Do you really care about walking down an aisle?" "No. I care whether you imagined me there as your mother. You are my mother, whether you walk down an aisle or not. And Paul is your father, whether you put an empty place in the processional or not. But you found room for him." The clicking stopped. I regretted saying it as soon as it left my mouth. Not because it wasn't true, but because grief was the one weapon neither of us was supposed to use. Owen's voice changed. That's a low thing to say. I know. Dad has nothing to do with this. His absence has a scheduled time. You said you liked that idea. I do like it. I just didn't realize I would be absent with him. He breathed out hard. You're not absent. You'll be there. In the parking lot. Nobody said parking lot. Where should a standby driver stand? I don't know, Mom. Maybe in the lobby. You can have coffee. You don't literally have to sit in the car. It was so ridiculous I almost laughed. He was offering me indoor standby status. I will attend your wedding, I said. I will not be the standby driver. He was quiet again, but this time I could feel him rearranging the situation in his mind, trying to find the version where I was not serious. You mean you don't want to be called that? I mean, I won't do it. So what happens if someone misses the shuttle? They call a cab. The hotel is out by the highway. It can take forever to get a car. Then hire the second shuttle. We looked at that. It's almost $500. Yes. For one night. Yes. And you want us to spend $500 because you don't like how something is worded? I want you to make transportation plans that do not depend on a person who has not agreed to provide transportation. You're my mother. I've been trying to tell you that. He made a short, humorless sound. Unbelievable. I sent you the name of a transport service. You already looked one up? I did. That's really something. What does that mean? It means you've had all day to build this into a crisis. I had all day to realize it already was one. He said he had to get back to work and hung up before I could respond. I stood in the kitchen with the phone against my ear until the empty line beeped. The boxes by the closet seemed to have multiplied. 4 boxes should not have been able to look smug, but those did. I carried my grocery list to the store and forgot the coffee filters. At the produce display, I spent 5 minutes examining lemons I did not need because I didn't trust myself to move on to another aisle. A man beside me picked up 1 lemon, frowned at it, and put it back as if it had disappointed him personally. Bad year? I asked. He glanced at me. Too much peel. How can you tell? I can't. We both laughed. It was the first normal moment of my day. At home, I put away the groceries and moved the favor boxes from the coat closet to the wall of the dining room. I wasn't angry enough to leave them outside. I was not yet calm enough to give them good closet space. Owen arrived at 6:40 without calling. He used his key, then knocked while opening the door, which defeated both systems. Mom, in the kitchen. He came in wearing the gray sweater Rachel had given him the previous Christmas. He looked tired and slightly annoyed, which was also how he'd looked at 17 whenever I asked where he had been. I thought you were working, I said. I was. He saw the boxes in the dining room. Those came. They did. Rachel said there should be 4, then her records are accurate. He ignored that. We're not asking you to do them tonight. You're not asking me to do them at all. He opened his mouth, then shut it. I had made soup. It was vegetable barley, thick enough to hold a spoon upright. Owen lifted the lid, inhaled, and reached for a bowl. You ate? I asked. Not really. Of course I fed him. That is the embarrassing thing about boundaries. You can make a declaration at 3 o'clock and butter bread for the same person at 6:50. He sat at the kitchen table. I put the bowl in front of him and took the chair across from him. The folded schedule was still beside the fruit bowl. Owen ate 2 spoonfuls before saying, This is good. Thank you. You put mushrooms in it? Yes. I thought I didn't like mushrooms. You don't like knowing they're there. He gave me a reluctant smile. For 1 second, we were ourselves again. Then he noticed the line through Pick Up Owen's extra suit shirt on the envelope. You actually crossed it off? I changed my list. He put down his spoon. I came over because I don't want this to turn into a whole thing. That phrase has never prevented anything from becoming a whole thing. Can we talk without you doing that? Doing what? Making every sentence into a little knife. That landed because it was true. I sat back. All right, I said, talk. Owen rubbed his thumb along the rim of his bowl. The wedding is 6 weeks away. Rachel's stressed. I'm stressed. Her mother has an opinion about everything. The restaurant keeps changing numbers, and the planner acts like we're running an airport. I don't have the energy for you to suddenly decide we don't value you. I didn't suddenly decide it. You got one email this morning. I got one email that put in writing what has been happening for months. What has been happening? I pointed toward the dining room. Boxes arrive at my house without anyone asking. I'm picking up shirts. I'm buying water. I'm lending my car. You offered the car. When? At dinner. I said it had more room than yours. I did not offer it for the wedding weekend. Owen frowned. That sounded like an offer. To you? He pushed the bowl away, though it was only half empty. This is what I mean. You always help, and now you're acting like we forced you. There it was, the part I could not dismiss. I do always help. You like helping, most of the time. You get offended if we don't include you, and now you're offended because we included you, as transportation, as someone we can rely on. I looked at his face and saw that he believed what he was saying. Dependable was a compliment in Owen's mind. He had used it so often that neither of us had noticed when it stopped describing my character and started describing my availability. I like being useful, I said. That doesn't mean useful is all I want to be. Nobody said it was. The schedule did. It's a spreadsheet. It's your wedding. He leaned forward. What do you want me to do? Put beloved mother beside your name? No. Then what? I want you to tell me where I belong when I'm not helping. He stared at me. The answer should have been easy. I watched him search for it and find only irritation. Finally, he said, This is exactly the kind of emotional riddle I cannot deal with right now. It isn't a riddle. It feels like one. He stood and carried his bowl to the sink. He left it there unrinsed, which he hadn't done in my house since college. I'll get the shirt myself, he said. Good. And I'll talk to Rachel about the schedule. Good. But I think you're being unfair. That may be true. He turned, surprised. I folded my hands on the table. I may have spent years making it hard for you to tell when I was offering and when I was afraid to say no. That part belongs to me. This schedule belongs to you. His expression tightened. You know, most mothers would be happy their son trusted them to help. Most sons would ask. He grabbed his coat from the hook. At the door, he looked into the dining room. Can the boxes stay until the wedding? They can stay until next Sunday. After that, you need to collect them. We don't have room. Neither do I. You have a whole dining room. Yes, it's mine. He gave me a look I had never seen from him before, not even during the worst year after Paul died. It wasn't rage, it was offense, almost disbelief, as if the furniture in my house had changed positions while he wasn't looking. Then he left. The next morning, Rachel called at 8:10. Hi, June. Is this a bad time? I was still in my robe, standing in front of the coffee maker with the filters I had forgotten to buy. It's as good as any. She paused. Owen told me you're upset about the schedule. He told you that quickly. He came home carrying his suit shirt. So the tailor was open. Apparently. There was a faint smile in her voice, but it disappeared fast. I'm sorry about the wording. Standby driver sounds cold. It is cold. We can call it something else. I'm not asking you to rename the job, Rachel. Another pause. What are you asking? She said. I'm asking not to have the job, but we planned transportation around your car. No one planned it with me. I thought Owen did. He didn't. I heard her take a breath and lower her voice, though I had no idea who might be near her. My mother already told 2 of my aunts that you'd pick them up from the airport. That is also news to me. Oh. That small sound told me more than an apology would have. Rachel recovered quickly. All right, we'll figure it out. I just wish we'd known sooner. Sooner than what? 6 weeks before the wedding. I looked at the 4 boxes against my dining room wall. I wish I'd known sooner, too, I said. I found out yesterday. Rachel was quiet long enough for the coffee maker to click off behind me. "I'm not trying to put you in the middle," I said. "I'm already in the middle." "That's fair." "No, it isn't." Her voice sharpened, then softened again. "I mean, none of this feels fair. My mother thinks every relative needs a personal escort. Owen thinks things are handled if he mentions them near somebody. The planner keeps sending me messages marked urgent because she wants to know whether the restaurant's napkins are ivory or soft white. What's the difference? Apparently, one suggests warmth and the other suggests we don't respect the season. Despite myself, I laughed. Rachel did too, but there was no ease in it. I know it sounds ridiculous. Most wedding details do when you say them out loud. I don't care about half of it. I care that people arrive, eat something decent, and don't spend the night telling me what went wrong. You can't control that last one. I know. That's why I'm paying someone with a headset. I took yesterday's filter from the trash and shook the dry grounds out of it. It wasn't my finest domestic moment, but I needed coffee before discussing my ceremonial erasure. "Did you know I wasn't in the processional?" I asked. Rachel hesitated. I knew we weren't doing a formal mother of the groom entrance. We're doing a formal mother of the bride entrance. My parents are walking together at 5:15. You memorized it? My section wasn't long. That's not what I meant. I know. Rachel sighed. Owen said you wouldn't care about that kind of thing. He didn't ask. He said you hate being looked at. I hate giving speeches. I can walk 15 feet without collapsing. I'm not saying you can't. Did he also tell you I wouldn't care about photographs? I assumed you were in those. So did I. The grounds in the reused filter began overflowing into the pot. I switched the machine off and stared at the muddy water running down the glass. Damn it. What happened? Coffee. Do you need to go? No. The coffee needs to go. I poured the mess into the sink. Rachel said, I'll fix the photographs. I held the pot under the faucet. I don't want you to insert me into a photograph because I complained. What do you want me to do, June? The question sounded painfully similar in her voice. I don't know yet. That makes it hard for us to solve. Maybe I don't want to be solved. I didn't say that. You both keep treating my reaction like another wedding problem. Transportation, flowers, June's feelings. Well, at the moment, it is a wedding problem. That stung because it was practical and because it was true. Rachel continued, I'm not saying you shouldn't be upset. I'm saying we need to know what will make this okay. Nothing will make it not have happened. All right, but what makes the next 6 weeks possible? There was the question I should have been asking. Not how to make Owen understand everything at once. Not how to get back the version of the wedding I had imagined. Just what I was willing to do next. I'll attend anything where I'm invited as family or as a guest, I said. I'll bring a gift. I'll wear the dress. I'll smile in whatever photographs you ask me to be in. That sounds very formal. I'm trying to be clear. Okay. I won't drive guests, move decorations, collect clothes, assemble favors, or stay on call. All right. And the boxes need to leave my house by Sunday. She gave a startled laugh. That part was definitely Owen. I know. We'll get them. Thank you. She went quiet again. Then she said, For what it's worth, I did want you close. I tightened my grip on the wet coffee pot. Then why didn't you notice where I was? The silence after that was different. Not defensive, not angry, just exposed. Rachel said she had to start work and we ended the call politely enough to prove neither of us felt polite. I drove to the store for coffee filters. In the parking lot, I saw an email from Louise with the subject transportation clarification. The woman moved quickly. Dear June, it began. Rachel has made us aware there may have been some confusion regarding travel support during the wedding weekend. There hadn't been confusion. Confusion was arriving at the wrong terminal. This was 3 people assigning me work and the assigned person finding out afterward. Louise had attached the flight details for her sisters, Marlene and Susan, both of whom were in their 60s and fully capable of contacting a car service. One arrived Thursday afternoon, the other Friday morning. Louise said she understood if I could no longer accommodate both transfers, but asked me to confirm which one I could manage so she could close the remaining gap. I sat behind the wheel and admired the construction of it. There was no option in which I did neither. That would have been impolite. I called Carol. "Tell her to close both gaps," she said. "That sounds hostile." Then add a smiley face. I'm not adding a smiley face to a transportation refusal. Fine, add a lemon. Why a lemon? I don't know. I'm making lunch. I read her the email. Carol made a low noise. Travel support. That's nice. Makes you sound like a folding cane. Louise is trying to keep things organized. Louise is trying to make your no smaller. That sentence stayed with me. I bought filters, then sat in the car another 10 minutes composing a response. Dear Louise, thank you for sending the details. I'm not available to provide airport transportation during the wedding weekend, so alternate arrangements will be needed for both arrivals. I'm glad we clarified this with enough time to make them. Best, June. I removed best because I wasn't feeling it, then put it back because I had standards. Louise replied before I reached home. Understood. One word and a period. It had the temperature of a locked freezer. The rest of the week passed in a series of small absences. Owen did not call on Wednesday while driving home. He normally called because Rachel worked later that night, and he disliked being alone with traffic. Thursday, there was no text asking whether I knew how long cooked chicken stayed safe in the refrigerator. Friday afternoon, I imagined him driving to the tailor himself. I knew the route he would take, where he would get annoyed by the left turn, and which parking lot entrance he would miss. I hated how easily my mind performed services nobody had requested. Friday evening, I went to dinner with Carol at a little Italian place where the tables were too close together, and the waiter called every woman my dear, regardless of age. Carol ordered eggplant, then looked offended when it arrived, tasting like eggplant. I don't know why I keep trying it, she said. You think adulthood might have changed the flavor? It changed Brussels sprouts. Bacon changed Brussels sprouts. She pointed her fork at me. You're avoiding the subject. I'm eating. You've moved that same piece of chicken 4 times. I'm giving it a tour. Carol put down her fork. Are you going to cave? No, you said that too fast. I looked toward the bar. A couple around my age sat side by side instead of across from each other. The woman was telling a story with both hands. The man watched her as if there was nowhere else he needed to be. I keep thinking about the rehearsal, I said. If I don't help and something goes wrong, everybody will know why. Most people will not care why. They'll get into another car and continue thinking about themselves. Louise will care. Louise was born caring what everybody else is doing. Owen will be embarrassed. Carol's face softened. Yes. He'll think I chose the worst possible time to prove a point. Did you? I moved the chicken again. I don't want to prove a point. I want not to do the thing, then don't do the thing. You make it sound simple. It is simple. It's not easy. I hated when Carol said something good because it made her impossible for the next 20 minutes. She took a bite of eggplant and grimaced. This is exactly what I ordered, and I'm furious. I laughed hard enough that the couple at the bar turned around. On Sunday, Owen and Rachel came for the boxes. Rachel hugged me at the door. It was a quick, firm hug that felt less like affection than a commitment to civil order. Owen carried the first 2 boxes to his car without saying hello. I followed Rachel into the dining room. I can take one, I said. You don't have to. I'm capable of carrying a box. I know, I'm trying not to ask you for anything. That isn't what I meant either. She stopped with her hands under the box. I honestly don't know the rules right now. Neither do I. That seemed to surprise her. We carried the box together. On the porch, Owen took it from us. Careful, Rachel said. The stickers are on top. I know. You tilted the other one. It's ribbon, Rachel, not nitroglycerin. I'm aware. Their irritation with each other had nothing to do with me and everything to do with me. When we went back inside, only 1 box remained. Owen stood in the dining room looking at the bare section of wall where the others had been. Happy? He asked. Rachel closed her eyes. No, I said. Well, you got what you wanted. I wanted you to ask before using my house. I'm removing them because I told you to. What do you want from me? I want you to stop asking that as if I'm hiding the answer. You are. First it's the driving, then the boxes, then the pictures. Every time we fix one thing, you come up with another. You haven't fixed anything. We changed the airport rides. You gave them to me without asking, and now we took them away. You can't give someone their own time back and call it a favor. Rachel said, "Owen, let's just go." He picked up the last box. At the door, I said, "I love you." He looked over his shoulder. "That doesn't make this less selfish." "No," I said. "It doesn't make it less painful either." He carried the box out. Rachel lingered. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. I didn't know which part she meant, and she left before I could ask. On Monday morning, another email arrived with the subject Revised Final Rehearsal Schedule. The yellow transportation section now listed a second hired shuttle. I searched for my name. It wasn't there at all. A message from Owen appeared beneath the attachment. "Fixed. You don't have any job now." I did not answer. I opened the revised schedule again, thinking I might have missed a section. There were 4 pages just like before. Rachel's mother still had makeup at 12:30. Paul still had his empty place at 5:15. The second shuttle now appeared in yellow with a confirmation number and a note saying the driver would remain on call. My name had not been moved. It had been deleted. I closed the attachment and carried my coffee to the living room. Halfway there, I realized I was holding the folded original schedule in my other hand. I had picked it up without noticing. I laid it on the coffee table. Standby driver on one page, nothing on the other. Apparently those were the choices. Owen texted again 20 minutes later. "Did you see it?" I turned my phone over. At 11, I took the vacuum cleaner apart because it had started making a high whining noise. Paul used to handle anything with a motor, but 11 years had forced me into competence. I found a wad of thread wrapped around the brush and sat on the floor cutting it loose with nail scissors. The doorbell rang. For one foolish second, I thought Owen had come to apologize. It was a woman holding a clipboard and selling replacement windows. "Are you the homeowner?" she asked. "I'm the vacuum repair department." She looked past me toward the living room floor. Bad time? Oddly enough, no. I listened to her entire presentation. She told me my windows were old, inefficient, and possibly costing me hundreds of dollars every year. I asked questions. She took measurements. By the time she handed me an estimate, I had almost agreed to replace 6 perfectly functional windows just because she had looked directly at me for 40 minutes. After she left, I called and canceled before she reached the end of the block. Then I called Carol. "Owen erased me," I said. "He what?" I read her the message. She was silent for a moment. "Well, that is impressively immature. He thinks he fixed it." "No, he wants you to say he fixed it?" "I'm not going to answer." "Good. I might replace my windows." "What?" "Never mind." Carol offered to come over, but I said no. If she came, we would spend the afternoon examining every line of both schedules until I could no longer tell where the paper ended and I began. At 4, an email arrived from the wedding planner. Her name was Dana, and every message she sent sounded as if it had been written while walking rapidly through a hotel. "Hi, June. Just circling back to confirm your home address for the farewell brunch on Sunday, October 20th. Current estimate is 32 attendees. Service window 1000-1200, with catering drop-off at 8:30. Please confirm kitchen access and driveway clearance for the delivery van. Excited to finalize." I read it standing at the kitchen counter. Then I sat down. Then I stood again. 32 people. The wedding wasn't only using my car, it was using my house. I searched my email for brunch. The word appeared in a thread from 3 months earlier after Owen and Rachel had come for dinner. Rachel had said they wanted to see people the morning after the wedding but didn't want another formal event. I had written, "You could always do something simple, coffee and pastries somewhere. People can come and go." Owen had replied, "Your place would be easy." I had sent back a thumbs up. A thumbs up. That was the entire agreement. I stared at that tiny yellow hand and wondered how many chairs it had promised. My house could hold 32 adults only if several of them agreed not to breathe. The dining table seated 8 with the leaf. I had 11 matching mugs, 14 if nobody objected to Christmas trees. The driveway fit 4 cars if one person accepted being trapped until noon. I called Dana. She answered brightly. "June, I was just updating your event sheet. I received your email. Wonderful. I mainly need to verify delivery access. The caterer has you listed for 2 insulated beverage dispensers, pastry trays, fruit, and breakfast sandwiches. There won't be a brunch at my house." The speed vanished from her voice. "I'm sorry. I did not agree to host it." A pause followed, filled with typing. "I have a private residence confirmed on the event summary." "Who confirmed it?" "I'd need to review the communication." "Please do." More typing. "I have approval from Owen on May 12th. He doesn't live here." "No, of course." Her tone changed from efficient to careful. My understanding was that this had been coordinated within the family. It wasn't. "All right. I can mark the location as pending. Mark it unavailable." "Understood." She did not sound excited to finalize anymore. Owen called 7 minutes later. "Are you canceling the brunch?" "I can't cancel something I never agreed to. You sent a thumbs up. To coffee and pastries somewhere. I said your place. You did not ask." "I absolutely asked." "You announced I did not understand that my thumb was renting you my house. This is insane." 32 people are insane. It's not 32. It's probably 25. The planner said 32. People don't come to those things, then why host one? Because Rachel's family is traveling. So are hotels. He lowered his voice. "You're making everything harder on purpose." I looked toward the living room where the old and revised schedules lay side by side. "You told me I had no job. That was what you wanted." "No, it was what you wanted me to feel guilty about." I changed the schedule. We hired the shuttle. The favors are out of your house. I'm getting my own clothes. What else do you want? My house. What does that mean? I want you to understand it's mine. Obviously, it's yours. Then ask before inviting 32 people into it. I thought I did. You assumed I would say yes. You always say yes. There was no accusation in those 4 words. That made them worse. I leaned against the counter. Not this time. What are we supposed to do? Ask Dana. She's going to suggest the hotel restaurant and they charge per person. Then pay them. We're already paying $500 for a shuttle we don't need. You do need it. That was the problem. No, we need it now. Owen, listen to yourself. I am listening. I hear myself trying to get married while my mother withdraws from everything because she didn't like a label. I don't think you hear yourself at all. He hung up. I expected anger to hold me upright. Instead, I sat at the table and cried. Not dramatically. No sobbing, no throwing dishes. Tears just kept sliding down my face while I looked at the grocery list on the envelope. Milk, coffee filters, lemons. The line through Owen's shirt. I had spent years telling myself he called because we were close. Now each refusal peeled away another reason for him to call. At 6, I opened the cabinet over the refrigerator and counted serving platters. There were 7. I took down the long white one I used at Thanksgiving. 32 people could fit if I borrowed Carol's folding table. Owen could move the couch against the wall. The catering van could park at the curb. I could make extra coffee in Paul's old percolator. I went upstairs and looked at the guest room, already imagining coats across the bed. By 7, I had mentally hosted the entire brunch. That was how fast I could abandon myself. My phone rang while I was measuring the dining room with the metal tape from the junk drawer. Marianne Cooper's name appeared on the screen. Marianne had known Owen since college and considered herself family because she had once stayed at our house for 6 weeks between apartments. She now lived 2 states away and possessed a talent for entering conflicts through whichever person had called her first. "June," she said warmly. "How are you?" "Measuring." "For what?" "A mistake I'm considering." She laughed uncertainly. Owen called. "Of course he did. He's upset. So am I know. He told me about the schedule and I agree the wording was awful." I waited. But, she continued, weddings make people crazy. There are so many moving pieces. Sometimes the people you trust most end up doing more because you know they'll be there for you. Did Owen ask you to call me? No. He was venting. Then why are you calling? Another uncertain laugh. Because you're both stubborn. I'm only stubborn when saying no. Nobody calls it stubborn when I say yes. That's not fair. It may not be. You've always been the person who holds everybody together. I closed the measuring tape. Maybe I'm tired of being glue. It's one weekend, June. There it was. One weekend, one shirt, one car, one brunch, one evening of helping my son. I know you're hurt, Marianne said, but are you willing to let this become the thing Owen remembers about his wedding? I looked around my dining room. I imagined crowded chairs, coffee stains, wet glasses, people asking where to put their coats. I imagined Owen smiling with relief because his mother had returned to her natural position beneath the work. I'm not the one who put it on the schedule, I said. Marianne sighed. You know what I mean. I do. After we hung up, I remained in the dining room with the tape measure in my hand. At 8:20, I called Dana. She answered with less brightness than before. Hello, June. Did you find another place for the brunch? We're exploring 2 options. How much is the hotel? That would depend on final attendance. I mean, what's the difference between using my house and using the hotel? I'm not comfortable discussing the couple's budget. Fair enough. She paused. Are you reconsidering? The word sat between us. I could have said yes. Owen would have called. Rachel would have thanked me. Louise might have upgraded me from understood to a complete sentence. Everyone would have relaxed, except me. No, I said. I was checking that you received me clearly. I did. Good. When the call ended, I returned the platter to the cabinet and folded the borrowed possibility away with the tablecloths. Rachel came to my house the following evening. She carried my cake plate, the glass one with the scalloped edge. This was under the favor boxes, she said. I think we took it by accident. You brought back a plate? I needed a reason to knock. I stepped aside. She placed the cake plate on the kitchen counter and ran her fingers around its edge. Owen told me about the brunch. I assumed he would. He also told Marianne. I heard. Rachel winced. I'm sorry. Are you? Yes, I'm also angry. At me, at everybody. That's crowded. She almost smiled. Then she saw the revised schedule on the coffee table. Rachel walked over, picked it up, and read Owen's message beneath the attachment on my open laptop. Her face changed. I didn't know he removed you completely, she said. I asked not to be the driver. I know. Apparently there was nowhere else to put me. Rachel stared at the page. Finally, she said, very quietly, there should have been. Rachel lowered herself onto the couch without asking, still holding the revised schedule. I sat in Paul's old chair across from her. He had bought it because the salesman promised lumbar support, then spent 10 years complaining that it made him feel like he was waiting for a dental procedure. Rachel looked at the schedule again. I handled my side, she said. Owen handled his. What does that mean? Guest communication, family roles, transportation. I gave Dana the names from my family, and Owen was supposed to do the same for his. I thought you and he had talked. We had not. I believe you. The words should have comforted me. Instead, they made me feel as if evidence had been presented. Rachel set the pages on the coffee table. I'm trying to figure out how I didn't notice. You had other things to notice. That isn't an excuse. No? She rubbed her forehead. Her engagement ring caught the lamplight, bright and hard. I saw a standby driver and thought it was something the two of you had agreed on. Honestly, it sounded like you. I felt myself stiffen. She saw it. Not like your personality. I mean, you're the person who knows where everything is. Owen calls you when he can't find his own tax return. It was in the file box I gave him. He said it was in your house. The file box was in his closet. Rachel closed her eyes. That actually makes this worse. A little. He told me you had it. He tells himself I have everything. We sat with that. Rachel glanced toward the kitchen where the scalloped cake plate was visible on the counter. My mother has a plate like that. Most mothers do. I think they issue them with the title. She smiled, then caught herself, as if smiling might weaken her position. I'm still angry about the brunch, she said. I know. You didn't ask us before calling Dana. Dana called me. You could have called us first. I called Owen after telling the planner it wasn't happening. Yes. That put us in a bad position. The brunch put me in a bad position. I know, but we genuinely thought you'd agreed. You thought a yellow thumb meant 32 people in my house. When you say it like that, how else should I say it? Rachel leaned back and folded her arms. This is what I mean. You're right, but you're making it impossible for anybody else to have been wrong by accident. The sentence landed somewhere uncomfortable. I looked at the cake plate instead of her. Owen did not accidentally type that I might miss dinner. No. He didn't accidentally remove my name. No. But maybe the brunch was an accident. Yes. An accident built out of assumptions. Yes. She wasn't fighting me. I almost wished she would. Rachel unfolded her arms. I'm not here to tell you to host it. We found a diner near the hotel with a private room. People will order from a limited menu and pay for themselves. Your mother will love that. My mother said the words, cash bar energy, about breakfast. I laughed. Rachel did too, and this time she let herself. The diner has good reviews, she said. Also, the owner does not care about ivory napkins. That may be worth the cash bar energy. Her face became serious again. We're fixing the logistics. That part is manageable. What I don't know how to fix is this. She tapped the revised schedule. You can't. I can put you in the processional. I don't want to be added because you came over and saw the page. Would you have wanted it before? I would have wanted Owen to think of it. What if he does now? He doesn't. You do. Rachel's mouth tightened. So if he changes it, that's fake. If he doesn't, that proves he doesn't care. What exactly is he supposed to do? I'm not setting a test. It sounds like one. I'm telling you that changing the ceremony won't change what happened. Nothing changes what happened, June. You said that to me already. But if nothing we do afterward counts, then what are we doing? Her voice cracked on the final word. Not much, but enough. I realized she was frightened. Not of me. Of the wedding becoming a container for every family failure she and Owen had failed to predict. I don't think your wedding should be used to repair this, I said. That sounds noble, but the wedding is where it happened. The schedule is where I saw it. I think it started before that. With Owen? With both of us. Rachel watched me. I taught him I would always take care of the practical thing, I said. It saved us from talking about harder things. Like what? Like his father. Like whether he was lonely. Like whether I was. She looked down at her ring. Owen wanted the empty place for Paul, she said. Dana thought it might confuse people. That sounded like Dana. He argued with her about it, Rachel continued. He said he didn't care if it made the timing awkward. He wanted his father represented. I'm glad. He cried after the first venue meeting. My throat tightened. Rachel looked up. He didn't want me to tell you. Why? He said you'd get upset. I am capable of being upset. He thinks he's protecting you. No. He's protecting himself from seeing me upset. She nodded slowly. That may be true. There were things about my son that Rachel understood because she slept beside him, and things she misunderstood for exactly the same reason. I had expected marriage to transfer Owen from one woman's knowing to another's. In reality, it created two incomplete versions of him. Did he ever tell you what Paul used to call him? I asked. No. Professor. Rachel smiled. Why? Because he explained everything. At 6 a.m, he would explain the toaster. In the car, he explained traffic lights. Paul would say, "Thank you, Professor." And Owen would get furious because he knew he was being teased but couldn't prove it. He still does that, I know. He explained my own health insurance to me last week. Was he right? Unfortunately? We smiled at each other. Then Rachel said, "He loves you. I know. He's being an ass. I know that too. I'm still marrying him. I hope so. The diner probably has a deposit." That got a real laugh out of her. She stayed another half hour. We made coffee with the new filters, and she told me Louise had rejected 3 centerpiece samples because one looked funereal and another looked like a corporate retreat. Rachel had chosen the third, which Louise called safe. When Rachel left, she hugged me differently. Not firmly, carefully. At the door, she said, "I want to add you to the family photographs." I looked past her at the empty driveway. "Ask Owen what he wants. He'll say whatever gets us out of the conversation. Then keep him in it." The next morning, Owen called at 7:43. I was dressed, but had not yet put on mascara. I considered letting it ring, then answered. "Hello." "Why did you tell Rachel I don't think of you as my mother?" "I did not say that. She came home asking me where you belong. That is not the same thing. It's obviously from you." She read your message. "What message?" "The one under the revised schedule." He went quiet. I continued. "She didn't know you removed me. I didn't remove you. You said you didn't want a job. I said I didn't want that job, so now she wants to redo the processional. I told her not to. That's not what she said. What did she say? That you wanted me to decide." "I do. I decide I don't care about the processional." There was the answer. Direct, irritated, and probably honest. "Then leave it alone," I said. He sounded thrown. "That's it? That's it? You're not going to bring it up again? I'm not going to ask for a ceremonial role you don't want me to have. I didn't say I don't want you to have it. I said I don't care. I heard you. Mom, stop doing that. Doing what?" Repeating my words like they mean something terrible. They mean something. You said them. I'm trying to get through a wedding, not write a family constitution, then get through your wedding. Great. Neither of us hung up. I could hear him breathing. Somewhere on his end, a cabinet shut. Finally, he said, "Rachel thinks I treated you like staff." Did she use that word? Yes. Then talk to Rachel about why. You put it in her head. Your schedule put it in mine. He swore under his breath. "Owen." "What?" "Don't make Rachel carry messages between us. If you're angry with me, be angry with me. I am, I know. And don't turn her against me. I'm not trying to. You went after the one thing she's most sensitive about. What is that?" Her first wedding. Everybody fought. Her parents, her ex's family, people she barely knew. Every decision turned into proof that someone was disrespecting someone else. She wanted this wedding to feel different. I hadn't known that. Rachel had mentioned the marriage, but rarely the wedding. "I don't want to recreate that for her," I said. "Well, you're doing a pretty good job." The word struck harder than he knew. "I'm sorry Rachel is hurting," I said. "I am not sorry I refused the driving or the brunch. So we're back where we started. No, we're somewhere worse, because now we know what we've been avoiding." That is such a mom sentence. What does that mean? It means you say something like, it belongs on a greeting card and expect everybody to stop arguing. I almost told him Paul used to accuse me of the same thing. Instead, I said, "You don't have to stop arguing. I have to work." Then work. He hung up. 3 minutes later, a message arrived from him. "Family photos at 4:10. Be in the chapel lobby." No please, no apology, no title. I typed, "Do you want me there?" The dots appeared immediately. "Don't start." I deleted the question. For the next several days, Owen did not call. Rachel sent me one picture of the diner's private room with the message, "Not elegant, but no one has to clean it." I told her the windows were nice. Louise sent nothing. On Thursday, an ivory envelope arrived in my mailbox. Inside was the formal wedding invitation I had already known was coming. My name and address were written in Rachel's careful hand. A smaller card listed the ceremony time, reception address, and family seating instructions. Mother of groom, aisle seat 5th row right side. Please remain near exit following ceremony in case transportation assistance is needed. I stood at the mailbox reading that final line in the afternoon sun. Then I began to laugh, not because it was funny, because somebody had removed the job from the schedule and hidden it in my invitation. I carried the invitation inside and put it on the kitchen table beside the old schedule, the revised schedule, and the estimate for windows I wasn't replacing. My life had become a museum of paperwork. I took a picture of the seating card and sent it to Rachel and Owen. "Is transportation assistance still expected?" Rachel called almost immediately. "No," she said. "Absolutely not. Then somebody should tell the invitation." Oh my God, I don't think God did the inserts. Dana did, or her assistant. I don't know. These were supposed to be checked. By whom? Rachel made a strangled sound. "Not you." I sat down. "When were they printed?" "Last week. We gave Dana the addresses, and she had everything mailed because my mother said my handwriting looked rushed. Your handwriting is on the envelope. I addressed yours myself." That softened something I was trying to keep firm. "I'm not asking you to fix the card," I said. "It shouldn't say that." But it does. It was pulled from the old event sheet. It has to be. The old event sheet also has me at the hotel, not 5th row. I don't know why it says 5th row. I heard movement on her end, then the quick rhythm of typing. "Hold on," she said. "I'm looking at the chapel chart." I waited. Oh. What does O mean? The first 2 rows on the right are the wedding party's guests. The 3rd is college friends. The 4th is extended family. And the 5th is transportation. No, the 5th is you and Carol. Carol made the family section? You both did. Paul's brother, Frank? 4th row. Why is Frank ahead of me? I don't know, June. Your parents. 1st row on the left. I pressed the heel of my hand against my forehead. Rachel said, "I'm changing it." "Don't." "What do you mean, don't?" "I mean, I don't want an emergency promotion every time we find another place I wasn't considered. This isn't a promotion. You should be in the 1st row. Did Owen think so?" "I haven't asked him." "Then ask him." "You keep saying that as if it's my job to make him have the right answer." "You're right. Don't ask him." She was silent. Neither of us seemed able to speak without handing the other woman responsibility for Owen. "I'm sorry," I said. "No, I'm sorry. This is a disaster." "It isn't a disaster. It feels like one. A disaster is the chapel burning down. This is a series of very informative administrative errors." She laughed once, helplessly. "I'll call Dana," she said. "You should. Tell her I don't work near the exit." "I'll tell her." After we hung up, Owen sent a message. Obviously not. Ignore the last line. I typed 3 different replies and deleted all of them. A minute later, he sent another. "Rachel wants you at the venue walk-through Saturday, noon." The wording amused me. Does Rachel want me there, or do both of you? His answer took longer. Both. I accepted. On Saturday, rain pressed a gray sheet over the city. I left early because the venue was 35 minutes away, and I had been trained by both marriage and motherhood to assume a tire would go flat whenever punctuality mattered. The chapel and restaurant shared an old stone property that had once been a small college. The parking lot sloped toward a line of bare trees, and water ran along the curb in quick brown streams. I sat in my car for a moment, watching guests from another event hurry beneath umbrellas. My phone lay silent in the cup holder. Before the schedule, Owen would have called to ask whether I was close. He might have needed me to bring tape or check his weather app or assure him the rain would stop 6 weeks from now. I had resented those calls only in theory. Their absence felt much worse. Inside, Dana stood in the lobby wearing black pants, flat shoes, and a headset despite there being no event that day. She was younger than I had imagined, perhaps 35, with curly hair pinned so tightly it seemed responsible for the speed at which she moved. "June," she said, approaching with both hands extended, "I owe you an apology. You owe me a corrected invitation insert. That too." She gave a quick, anxious smile. The transportation note was carried over from an earlier event draft. "I take full responsibility. Did you write standby driver?" Her smile disappeared. I used the terminology Owen provided. There it was. "Thank you," I said. She looked relieved that I didn't continue. Rachel came through the chapel doors carrying 2 umbrellas and a cardboard tray of coffees. Her hair had frizzed around her face, and her raincoat was dark across the shoulders. "I got you decaf," she said. "I drink regular." Owen said decaf. Owen thinks caffeine causes every opinion I have after noon. She handed me a regular coffee from the tray. "Then this is mine, and I'm making a sacrifice." Owen entered behind her with Louise and Bill. He looked at me, then at the coffee in my hand. "You're going to be up all night," he said. "Maybe I'll replace the windows." "What?" "Nothing." Louise greeted me with a brief touch to my forearm. "June, I'm glad you decided to participate." There were several possible answers. I chose the one least likely to get us removed from the venue. "Thank you, Louise." Bill kissed my cheek. He was a broad, quiet man with silver hair and a face that always looked mildly sunburned. If she says participate, it means she's been reading planning emails. Louise turned to him. "What should I say?" "Hello, Works." I said her name. "You did." Rachel handed Bill a coffee before the conversation could become a marriage. Dana clapped once. "All right, everyone. We'll begin with guest flow." She led us through the lobby explaining coat racks, restrooms, signage, and the route between chapel and restaurant. Louise took notes. Bill watched a maintenance worker change a light bulb. Owen checked his phone. Rachel drank the decaf I was supposed to have. I followed them and tried to understand why I was there. At the restaurant entrance, Dana pointed toward a long table. "Cards and gifts will be here. June, this area is close to the right side chapel exit. So if we need—" "No," Owen said. Every head turned toward him. Dana stopped. "No?" "My mother isn't doing logistics." He said it sharply, almost rudely, but my chest tightened anyway. Dana recovered. "Understood. The attendants will monitor the table." Louise wrote something down. Rachel looked at Owen. He looked at no one. It was the first time he had defended the boundary aloud. He did it as if he were angry at the boundary, but he did it. We moved into the chapel. It was simple and beautiful, with white walls, dark wooden pews, and tall windows that turned the rainy daylight silver. There was no raised stage, only 3 shallow steps leading to the altar. Dana arranged us like furniture. Rachel and Bill enter from the rear. "Louise, you'll be seated before the processional begins. Owen, you'll enter from the side with your attendants." "And Paul?" Louise asked. Owen's head lifted. Dana pointed to a narrow table near the first pew. "The framed photograph will be placed here with a single candle." "I thought there was an empty place in the processional," I said. Owen's expression closed. Dana checked her notes. "That was the original concept. Fire code doesn't allow an open flame in the aisle, and an empty walking position was difficult to communicate, so we revised it." I looked at Owen. "Were you okay with that?" "It's fine." Rachel touched his arm. "We can still do the pause." I said it's fine. Paul's absence had been revised into furniture, too. Dana kept moving. Seating. "We are adjusting the right front row. June, you'll be here." She indicated the first pew, across the aisle from Louise and Bill. I looked at Rachel. She lifted her chin slightly, daring me to object. "I thought I was in the 5th row." "That was based on an outdated version," Dana said. "The invitation wasn't outdated when it was printed." Dana's mouth tightened. Owen said, "Can we not? I'm asking. You wanted a place." "There's your place." I did not ask Rachel to move me. "Does it matter who moved you?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because she keeps trying to repair something you won't look at." His face flushed. "I'm standing in the chapel looking at it. You're standing in the chapel hoping we'll stop talking." Louise stared at her notebook. Bill studied the windows. Dana became deeply interested in her headset. Rachel said quietly, "I moved the seat because it was wrong." I looked at her. "Then thank you." The simplicity of that seemed to surprise everyone. I sat in the first pew. The wood was harder than it looked. I placed my purse beside me and faced the altar while Dana explained the order of readings. Owen remained standing near the aisle. After a moment, he sat beside me. Neither of us spoke. Dana moved the others toward the side room to review reception timing. Rachel glanced back, but Owen shook his head slightly. She went with them. Rain tapped against the tall windows. I said, "The photograph will be nice." He kept his eyes on the altar. It wasn't my idea to change it. I know. They said people wouldn't understand the empty space. They might not. I understood it. I know. His hands were clasped between his knees. Paul used to sit the same way in church, head lowered, looking prayerful when he was actually checking whether his shoes needed polishing. "I wasn't trying to put him ahead of you," Owen said. "I didn't think you were. You said his absence had a scheduled time?" "It did." "That was cruel." "Yes." He glanced at me, surprised by the agreement. "I'm sorry I said it that way," I told him. "I'm not sorry I noticed." He looked forward again. The chapel doors opened behind us, and a gust of cool air moved down the aisle. "I thought you liked helping," he said. "I do." So when Dana asked about drivers, I said you'd probably rather have something to do than sit around. You could have asked me. I should have. The words were quiet, almost hidden. I waited, but nothing followed them. "Why the fifth row?" I asked. He rubbed his palms together. It was close to the exit. "For the driving?" "Yes." "After the driving was removed, why didn't you move the seat?" I didn't think about the seating. That answer hurt, but it was honest. He looked at me then. "I don't picture you sitting." "What does that mean?" "At things. You're always moving around, checking whether people ate, finding somebody's coat. You don't sit. I sat at your graduation. You left twice. You needed safety pins. My gown was fine. Your friend Marcus needed them." He almost smiled. Then he said, "When I pictured the wedding, I knew you'd be there. I just didn't picture where." The chapel seemed very still. There were ways to hear that sentence kindly. He had never imagined a life event without me. My presence was so certain that it had become part of the building, like the floor or the lights. But floors did not get a seat. "I think that's the problem," I said. Owen's smile disappeared. From the restaurant doorway, Dana called that they were ready for us. He stood first. I stayed seated. "Are you coming?" he asked. "In a minute." He hesitated, then walked up the aisle without me. I remained in the front pew and looked at the little table where Paul's photograph would stand. Outside, rain slid down the windows in long, wavering lines. For once, there was nothing I needed to carry, arrange, collect, or fix. I sat there anyway. Bill found me there a few minutes later. He paused at the end of the pew. "Seat taken. It may depend on which version of the chart you have." He smiled and sat beside me, leaving a respectful space between us. Up close, he smelled faintly of coffee and rain. His suit pants were damp at the cuffs, and there was a tiny streak of blue ink on his thumb. "Louise is reorganizing the restaurant," he said. "I thought Dana organized the restaurant. That's why Dana looks upset." We listened to the rain. After a moment, Bill nodded toward the small table near the altar. "That where the picture goes?" "Yes." "Good picture?" "I don't know which one Owen chose." "You should check. He'll think I'm interfering." "Then interfere quietly." I glanced at him. "Is that how you've survived marriage?" "One of several methods." He folded his hands over his stomach. "Louise isn't angry at you," he said. "She sent me a one-word email with a period." "All right." "She's a little angry. A period can hold a lot. She likes a plan." "So do I." "Yes, but you make plans for yourself. Louise makes them for the county." I laughed. Bill looked pleased, then became serious. "She gets scared when things aren't settled. The more scared she gets, the more everybody receives an assignment." "That sounds familiar. Rachel says Owen does it too. Owen doesn't assign. He mentions something until it becomes yours." Bill considered that. More advanced. He glanced toward the chapel doors. "I thought you'd be in the wedding." So did I. That was poorly handled. I waited for the but. It didn't come. Thank you, I said. He nodded once. I'm going to look at the light bulb situation. What's wrong with it? Nothing. That's why I picked it. He left me smiling. When I returned to the restaurant, Dana was standing beside a floor plan while Louise questioned the distance between two tables. We need enough space for people to move comfortably, Louise said. They meet accessibility requirements, Dana replied. Requirements are minimums. Louise, Rachel said, the tables are fine. Fine is what people say before someone knocks over a chair. Bill entered behind me. The light bulbs are excellent. Louise looked at him. What? Even distribution. Warm but not seasonal. Rachel covered her mouth with her coffee cup. The rest of the walkthrough went quickly. Dana reviewed the hired transportation twice. One shuttle would make continuous loops between the hotel and venue. The second would remain available for delayed arrivals and unexpected trips. Both companies had confirmation numbers, driver contacts, and written routes. No one looked at me while she explained it. At the end, Louise asked whether she could speak to me privately. She guided me toward the coat room, although nothing about the movement suggested I had a choice. I want to clear the air, she said. All right. I did not know Owen had failed to confirm the driving arrangements with you. I believe you. I would never intentionally impose. I thought of the email asking which airport transfer I could manage. You believed I had already agreed, I said. Yes. Then you believed assigning your sisters to me was fine. They needed transportation. So did everyone else. Her mouth tightened. Family normally helps family during a wedding. Family normally attends the rehearsal. You were invited to the dinner. That's not the same thing. No, it isn't. She straightened the strap of her purse. But Rachel has included you now. Rachel has corrected several things. Then perhaps we can stop treating every mistake as evidence of a larger offense. I studied her face. Louise wasn't cruel. Cruelty would have been simpler. She was protecting her daughter's wedding with the same force I had spent years protecting my son's comfort, and neither of us liked seeing the resemblance. I'm not trying to damage the wedding, I said. Intentions are not always the issue. No, they aren't. That stopped her. She glanced toward the restaurant where Rachel and Owen stood beside Dana. Rachel was talking. Owen's jaw was tight. Rachel's first wedding was very difficult, Louise said. Owen told me. She deserves one weekend that is not controlled by someone else's feelings. So do I. The words came out quietly. Louise looked at me and something in her expression shifted. Not agreement. Recognition, perhaps, which is often less pleasant. She nodded. Then we understand each other. I'm not sure we do. No, she said, but I suspect that's the closest we'll get today. It was the most honest thing she had ever said to me. When the walkthrough ended, Owen offered to carry my umbrella to the car, even though carrying an umbrella for someone in the rain mostly means one person gets wet in a more complicated way. We crossed the parking lot beneath it together. Bill likes the light bulbs, I said. Bill likes anything that isn't a conversation. That's not the worst quality. At my car, Owen handed me the umbrella. Are you coming to the rehearsal dinner? He asked. I'm invited? Yes. Then I'll be there. From the beginning? I believe that's when dinners work best. He looked away. Dana added you to the final count. Good. And the family pictures are at 4:10 on the wedding day. I know. Will you come? Yes. He seemed suspicious of how easily I answered. I'm not refusing everything, I said. It feels like it. I'm refusing work I wasn't asked to accept. He put his hands in his coat pockets. I did ask about the shirt after I said no. Still counts. I smiled despite myself. Goodbye, Owen. Drive careful. Carefully. Professor, he said. The word stopped me. He smiled, small and crooked, then turned and walked through the rain before I could answer. For the next few weeks, we managed a cautious peace, built almost entirely from short messages. Rachel sent the final dinner address. I replied that I would attend. Owen asked whether I still had Paul's silver cufflinks. I said yes and offered to bring them to him, then spent half the night wondering whether that violated my own rules. It didn't. He had asked. He came by the following evening to collect them. I showed him the velvet box, and he opened it at the kitchen table. Paul had worn the cufflinks at our 25th anniversary dinner. They were plain silver squares, scratched at the edges because Paul had never owned anything without using it hard. Owen touched one with his thumb. "Do you mind?" he asked. "They're yours." "I thought they were yours." "They belong to your father." "That doesn't answer me." I looked at him. "No," I said. "I don't mind." He put the box in his pocket and stayed for coffee. We discussed nothing important. Rachel had ordered too many candles. The diner wanted a final brunch count. Dana had discovered the restaurant's sound system made a popping noise whenever someone turned on a microphone. Before he left, Owen rinsed his cup. It was not an apology. It was an ordinary visit which I had begun to understand might be harder for us. 2 days later, Marianne sent me a message saying she hoped everyone had calmed down. I didn't answer. Carol came with me to have the blue dress altered. The seamstress pinned the hem while I stood on a low platform under unforgiving white lights. "Walk," she instructed. I walked 6 steps, turned, and nearly stepped on the fabric. "You're taking too much off," Carol said. The seamstress looked at her. "Are you wearing it?" "No." "Then let her fall." "I'm trying not to. That is the problem with sisters." Carol waited until the woman moved away, then whispered, "It still only photographs beautifully." I laughed so suddenly that the seamstress stuck herself with a pin and blamed both of us. The dress came home in a long plastic bag. I hung it on the back of the guest room door where I could see it from the hallway. Every time I passed, the blue shape reminded me that the wedding was still approaching no matter how many conversations remained unfinished. On the morning of the rehearsal, Owen sent one message: "Dinner at 7. Please be on time." I replied with a thumbs up, then immediately regretted the symbol. At 5:30, I drove to Carol's house. She lived 15 minutes from the venue, and we had decided to ride to dinner together so neither of us had to navigate the dark road alone afterward. She opened the door wearing one earring and holding a wooden spoon. "You're early." "You said 5:30. I say lots of things." Her house smelled like onions and butter. "I thought we were going to dinner." "We are. This is tomorrow's soup." "You're making tomorrow's soup today?" That is generally how soup works. I hung my coat in the hall. I wore a burgundy dress, low heels, and Paul's old watch. The blue dress was for the wedding. Tonight I wanted to look like myself. Carol returned to the mirror over the sideboard and attached her second earring. "Nervous?" she asked. "No. You just checked your purse 3 times. I'm making sure I have my lipstick. It's in your hand." I put it away. At 5:42, my phone rang. Owen. Carol saw the name. "Are you going to answer?" I picked it up. My thumb hovered over the screen. The call stopped. A message arrived almost immediately. "Call me, shuttle issue." I stared at the words. Carol set down the wooden spoon. What kind of issue? If he wanted me to know, he could type it. That's evasive. "Yes." The phone rang again. I turned it face down on the sideboard. Carol looked at me. "You know this is the moment he was counting on." "I know. You also know if you answer, you're going to get in that car. I know." The ringing stopped. A voicemail appeared. I played it on speaker. "Mom, the backup shuttle took the wrong group to the restaurant. Marlene, Susan, and Thomas are still at the hotel. We're already behind. You're close, right? Please call me." His voice was tight, breathless. 3 adults stood in a heated hotel with phones, money, and a front desk. Nothing dangerous had happened. The chapel was 20 minutes away. A cab might make the rehearsal late. Late was not ruined. My keys were in my purse. I could be at the hotel in 10 minutes. I knew exactly which entrance to use. I could collect everyone. Calm Owen, impress Louise, and arrive at the chapel having proven that no matter what I said, I would still rescue him. The phone rang a 3rd time. Carol did not tell me what to do. That was her gift. I watched Owen's name glow against the dark screen. Every instinct I had sharpened over 39 years told me to pick it up. I let it ring. The screen went dark. Carol picked up her spoon again. "Soup needs salt." I stared at her. "That's all you have to say? What would you prefer?" "I don't know. That's becoming a family slogan." She returned to the kitchen. The onions in her pot had begun to brown around the edges. She stirred them, added a pinch of salt, and lowered the heat. My phone chimed. Never mind. We found rides. Relief came first. Then guilt, which was irritating because guilt had not arranged transportation either. "They found rides," I said. "Good." I could have answered. Yes. I could have said no. "Would you have?" I opened my purse and put the phone inside. Carol nodded. That's what I thought. At 6:15, I checked the rideshare app on my own phone to see how long a car took from the hotel to the chapel. 9 minutes for pickup, 19 minutes of driving. The rehearsal would begin about half an hour late. I imagined Owen standing near the altar in Paul's cufflinks, checking the chapel doors. Rachel would be trying not to look worried. Louise would be looking worried enough for everyone. Dana would walk rapidly while speaking into her headset. All because one professional driver followed the wrong route, not because of me. I repeated that to myself until it sounded less true instead of more. Another message arrived at 6:30. "You knew I needed you and chose not to answer." I read it twice. Then I saved it. I didn't know why. Perhaps because messages could disappear beneath grocery questions and weather reports until the sentence that changed something looked no different from the rest. I wanted this one where I could find it later. Carol leaned into the hall. "Are you changing your shoes?" "No. You've been standing there holding one of them for 5 minutes." I looked down. My left shoe was in my hand. The right was still on my foot. "I'm fine." That's usually a lie, but we're late for our own schedule. We arrived at the restaurant at 7:02. The private dining room was already full. Candles flickered along 2 long tables, and the windows reflected everyone back at themselves. People were standing with drinks, talking more loudly than necessary. Nothing appeared ruined. Marlene and Susan were near the bar telling Bill about their ride from the hotel. They were Louise's older sisters, both wearing nearly identical green dresses, despite insisting they had not coordinated. "Our driver was named Cody," Marlene said as we approached. "He had purple hair and no idea where the chapel was." "He knew where the restaurant was," Susan corrected. "He knew where his phone said the restaurant was." Thomas, Rachel's 46-year-old cousin, raised his glass. "Cody saved the rehearsal." Susan looked at him. "We missed half of it, exactly." They laughed. Marlene turned to me. "June, we nearly called you." My stomach tightened. "Did you?" "No. Owen said you weren't available." She lowered her voice. He did not look happy about it. Carol touched my back lightly, then moved toward our table. I saw Owen across the room. He wore a dark suit and the silver cufflinks. One of them caught the candlelight when he lifted his glass. He was speaking to Frank, but his eyes were on me. I smiled. He didn't. Rachel came over before I could decide whether to approach him. She wore a cream-colored dress with small gold earrings. She looked tired and lovely and very close to tears. "You're here," she said. I said I would be. She hugged Carol, then me. I felt her shoulders lower as if my presence had released a breath. "How was the rehearsal?" I asked. "Short." "Efficient," Carol said. Rachel laughed. "Dana is calling it condensed." "I heard Marlene's driver had purple hair," I said. "He also had excellent music. They arrived dancing. That doesn't sound catastrophic." "No." Rachel glanced toward Owen. It wasn't. The word held more than the delay. Dana appeared beside us and handed Rachel a folded card. Bill's toast, then Louise, then open remarks. Dinner service begins immediately afterward. We are 11 minutes behind, but can recover. "How do you recover dinner?" Carol asked. Dana blinked. "We tighten transitions. I'm going to use that the next time I burn something." Dana did not appear to know whether this required a response. She turned to me. "June, your seat is beside Frank. Thank you. No transportation duties." Her face remained professional, but her eyes asked whether she had said it correctly. I appreciate the clarification. Owen crossed the room while Dana led Rachel away. "Can I talk to you?" he asked. Carol opened her mouth. "I'm fine," I told her. Owen guided me into the hallway outside the dining room. The restaurant kitchen doors swung open and shut at one end, releasing bursts of heat and the sound of dishes. He stopped beside a framed photograph of a vineyard. "You didn't answer." "No." "You heard the phone?" "Yes." His jaw shifted. 3 people were stranded. At a hotel. We had a schedule. "So did the driver." "That's your response?" "What would you like me to say?" "I'd like you to explain how you could listen to me call 3 times and ignore me. I had already told you I would not be the backup driver. I wasn't asking you to be the backup driver. I was asking for help in an emergency. A half-hour delay is not an emergency. It was to me. That is why you hired 2 shuttles. One went to the wrong place, and the hotel found rides. After we were already late. I kept my voice low. Late is uncomfortable. It is not dangerous. That isn't the point. What is? You knew I was depending on you. No. You were depending on me to change my answer when you made the situation urgent enough." He stared at me. A server came through the swinging doors carrying a tray of water glasses. We moved closer to the wall. Owen said, "You could have answered and told me no." I didn't trust myself to keep saying it. For the first time, some of the anger left his face. I continued, "If I heard your voice, I would have gone. Not because I agreed, because you sounded upset. Would that have been so terrible?" "For me, yes." He looked toward the dining room. "Do you hear how dramatic that sounds? Yes, it was a ride. It was the same ride I refused 6 weeks ago. You were 10 minutes away. That's why you called me. Of course that's why I called you. No, you didn't call Marianne. You didn't call Frank. You didn't call the restaurant. You called the person who had already said no because you expected my no to be temporary." He folded his arms. "I expected my mother to help me. I expected my son to respect me." His face hardened again. "So you wanted me to fail?" "No." "You sat there knowing the rehearsal was starting late?" "Yes." "And did nothing." "I did what I said I would do." "That's cold." It felt cold. The admission seemed to confuse him. "I didn't enjoy it," I said. "I sat at Carol's house wanting to get in my car. But if I had, every no I said before tonight would have become a performance. You made the whole rehearsal a performance. No one there even knew. I knew." The kitchen doors opened again. This time, Louise emerged. "There you are," she said. Her gaze moved from Owen to me. "Bill is about to speak. We're coming," Owen said. Louise remained where she was. "Owen, I said we're coming." She looked at me. "I understand there was a transportation problem." "There was," I said, "and you were nearby." "Louise," Owen warned, "I'm asking." "No," I said, "you're confirming." Her expression cooled. 3 members of my family were left at a hotel. Your sisters told me they enjoyed the ride they found. That isn't the point. Apparently we have several points. Owen rubbed both hands over his face. "Can we please not do this tonight?" Rachel appeared behind Louise. She took in the 4 of us and closed her eyes for 1 second. "Mom," she said, "go sit down. I came to find Owen." "You found him. Your father is waiting. Then don't make him wait longer." Louise gave me a look, but she returned to the dining room. Rachel turned to Owen. "You too. I'm talking to Mom." "No." "You're having the same fight in a restaurant hallway while everyone waits to toast us." Owen looked at me. I said, "Go." He walked away without another word. Rachel stayed. "I'm sorry," I said. "For what part?" "For being in the hallway." That startled a laugh out of her. She leaned against the wall beside me. "He's furious." "I know." "I'm a little furious." "I know. I also told him not to call you." That surprised me. "When?" "When Dana said the shuttle was missing. I said to call the hotel and get cars. He said you were close. He knew where I was? You told him you were getting ready at Carol's." I had. 2 days earlier, when he asked whether I would arrive alone. Rachel looked toward the dining room. "I knew if he called and you went, We'd spend the rest of our marriage pretending this never happened. The sentence was so precise, it left me without an answer. "I'm sorry the rehearsal was late," I said. "So am I. But I'm not sorry I didn't drive. I know." "Are you angry with me?" "Yes." "Are you angry with him?" "Yes, that sounds exhausting." "It's been a very balanced week." From the dining room came the sound of a spoon tapping a glass. Rachel straightened. "I need to go hear my father say something embarrassing." "I'll be right behind you." She touched my arm. "Come sit down, June." It was not a request for labor. I followed her. Bill's toast lasted 4 minutes and contained only one embarrassing story, involving Rachel, a broken wine glass, and a first date she had refused to discuss. Louise spoke next. She didn't use notes, though she had written 6 pages. Her voice softened when she looked at Rachel. "We spend years imagining what will protect the people we love," she said. "Then they grow into adults and ask us to stand beside them instead." Her eyes moved briefly toward me. I couldn't tell whether the line was an offering or a warning. Frank sat on my left. Carol sat on my right. Owen and Rachel were at the center table with Louise and Bill. When open remarks began, several friends stood to speak. Marianne told a story about Owen attempting to cook risotto and damaging a saucepan. Thomas thanked Cody for the emergency transportation and raised his glass to wrong turns that still get you to dinner. Everyone laughed, including Rachel. Owen did not. Near the end, he stood. He thanked Louise and Bill, Dana, Rachel's sisters, the wedding party, and everyone who had traveled. He thanked the restaurant staff for adjusting to the late start. Then he looked at me. "And my mother," he said, "for being here, nothing more." I lifted my glass. It was enough to make the room continue. It was not enough to make us fine. Dinner ended at 10. In the parking lot, Owen was surrounded by friends, so I kissed Rachel's cheek and left with Carol. At her house, I collected my car. She stood on the porch while I unlocked it. "You okay to drive?" she asked. "Yes. Call when you get home." "I will, unlike some people." "Carol, too soon?" "Yes." She hugged me. "I'm proud of you." "I'm not." "That's because you think a boundary is supposed to feel like winning." I drove home through nearly empty streets. The blue dress hung on the guest room door. I checked its zipper, laid out my shoes, and put Paul's watch beside my earrings. Before bed, I opened Owen's message again. "You knew I needed you and chose not to answer." I moved it into the saved folder. His accusation was not entirely wrong. That was why it hurt. He had needed something. I had chosen not to provide it. For the first time, I let both truths remain true. I slept badly and woke before the alarm. For several seconds, I didn't know why the room felt unfamiliar. Then I saw the blue dress hanging in the hallway and remembered my son was getting married. The dress looked black before sunrise. I made coffee, then changed my mind and made tea because Owen's warning about caffeine had lodged in my head. Halfway through the tea, I got annoyed at being managed by someone who wasn't there and poured myself coffee anyway. Carol called at 9. "Are you awake? I've been awake since 4. That's unhealthy. You called at 9 to ask whether I'm awake. I wanted to make sure you hadn't fled. Where would I go? You have always spoken highly of Vermont. I've never been to Vermont. That would make it an effective escape." She offered to come help me dress. I said no. The zipper was on the side, my hair appointment wasn't until noon, and I wanted a few hours in my own house without anyone asking how I felt. The answer changed every 10 minutes. I was proud of Owen. I was angry with him. I wanted to see him. I wanted him to feel the full weight of not seeing me. I hoped the day would be beautiful. I hoped something small and harmless would go wrong, so everyone would stop pretending perfect days existed. At 11, Rachel sent me a message. "Good morning. No tasks, no surprises. Just come." I smiled. Then another arrived. "Please," I replied. "I'll be there at 4. The stylist twisted my hair into something softer than I would have chosen and sprayed it until weather was no longer relevant. At home, I stepped into the blue dress and turned toward the mirror. Louise had been right. It photographed beautifully. It also looked good on the human being wearing it. I fastened Paul's watch around my wrist. It was a man's watch, too large and heavier than any jewelry I normally wore. But the jeweler had added holes to the leather strap after he died. The face had a faint scratch across the number 8. Paul had made that scratch while repairing a cabinet and then denied wearing the watch during the repair, as if another man had entered our house and damaged it. "You're late," I told him. The watch said 3:20, still time. I drove myself. The sky had cleared overnight, leaving the stone chapel bright against a deep blue October afternoon. Dana had stationed an assistant at the parking lot entrance with a clipboard. Both hired shuttles were parked in full view, large, white, and impossible to confuse with me. I parked near the back. Inside, people moved with the speed and purpose of a small emergency department. Garment bags crossed the lobby. Someone carried flowers. A man I didn't recognize hurried past with a box of batteries. Dana spotted me. "June, you're exactly on time. I was told there were no tasks. There are not." She checked her clipboard. "Family photographs begin in 6 minutes. Chapel lobby, then altar. Your seat is front row, right aisle. Your purse can remain in the side room during photos." That sounds suspiciously like instructions. She smiled. Occupational hazard. The chapel smelled faintly of flowers and old wood. White arrangements had been attached to the end of every third pew. The little table near the altar held Paul's photograph. Owen had chosen one from our anniversary dinner. Paul was wearing the silver cufflinks and a dark jacket. He was looking slightly away from the camera because someone had called his name just before the picture was taken. His mouth was beginning to smile. I touched the edge of the frame. "Is it okay?" Owen's voice came from behind me. I turned. He wore a black suit, white shirt, and a tie the same deep blue as my dress. The cufflinks sat at his wrists. His hair had been cut shorter than I liked, which made him look both older and more like the boy I remembered. "It's a good picture," I said. "I almost used the straw hat. At your wedding? He liked that hat. He liked annoying me with that hat. Same thing." We almost smiled. The photographer entered carrying 2 cameras. "Family, please. We are moving." Louise and Bill came through the side door with Rachel's sisters. Carol followed with Frank. There were introductions, adjustments, and a great deal of discussion about height. The photographer placed me beside Owen. "Closer," she said. We moved half an inch. "Your mother, not a tax auditor." "Closer." Owen put his arm around me, his cuff caught in a loose thread near my sleeve. "Hold," I said. He froze. I worked the thread loose with my thumbnail. "Do you have scissors?" he whispered. "No. You always have scissors. I'm off duty." He gave a quick laugh. The photographer caught it. "That," she said, again. We could not produce the same expression on command. The second picture would show Owen trying not to smile and me looking up at him. It might be better. Rachel joined us for the next photograph. She wore a simple ivory gown with long sleeves and no veil. For a moment, I forgot schedules, seating charts, and hotel shuttles. I saw only the woman my son had chosen and the nervous happiness in his face when she stepped beside him. "You look beautiful," I told her. She squeezed my hand. "So do you." Louise looked beautiful too, though telling her so made her suspicious. "Thank you," she said. "Your dress photographs very well." Rachel closed her eyes. I said, "We've established that." The photographer moved through combinations with ruthless efficiency. Rachel with her parents, Owen with me. The couple with both families, Owen and Frank, Rachel and her sisters. At the end, Dana announced that the chapel needed to clear. Louise was escorted to the left front pew. Bill went with Rachel. Carol and Frank followed an assistant toward their seats. I reached for my purse. "Owen," Dana said, "side room. Your attendants are waiting." He looked at me. "Can Mom come for a second?" Dana checked the time. 1 second is available. The side room had a narrow sofa, a mirror, and 3 garment bags hanging from a brass hook. Owen's friends were in the hallway, talking loudly enough to make privacy theoretical. He shut the door. "What is it?" I asked. His tie was slightly crooked. I resisted touching it. I don't know. Dana gave you 1 second. She exaggerates. No. She compresses. He looked toward the mirror, then back at me. I'm still angry about last night. I know. I don't want to talk about it now. Then don't. But I didn't want to go out there without saying something. I waited. He rubbed his thumb over one cufflink. I shouldn't have written standby driver. No. I thought it was practical. I know. I didn't mean it the way you took it. That doesn't make the way I took it imaginary. He nodded once. Voices moved past the door. Dana said someone's name with increasing urgency. Owen looked suddenly frightened. Not dramatic. Not panicked. Just 39 years old and standing on the edge of a choice he could not test before making. Would you walk with me? He asked. I thought you entered from the side. I do. I mean, from here to the chapel doors. That's about 40 feet. I'm aware. Why? He gave me a strained smile. Why does everything need a title? I stared at him. Then he winced. That came out wrong. It really did. I mean, can you just walk with me? Yes. I straightened his tie. He looked down at my hand. I love you, I said. I love you too. We are not fine yet. His eyes met mine. I know. No argument. No demand that I reassure him. Just the truth between us. I offered my arm. He took it. We left the side room and walked together through the hallway. His friends fell quiet as we passed, then followed at a distance. At the rear chapel doors, Dana waited with her headset and an expression that suggested our 40 feet had affected national airspace. This is where I leave you, I said. Owen held my arm a second longer. Mom, what? Thank you for coming. I could have told him that coming should never have been in doubt. I could have asked whether he meant the wedding or those 40 feet. Instead, I kissed his cheek. Go get married. An assistant led me down the side aisle to the front pew. I sat across from Louise with Paul's photograph between our sides of the chapel. Owen entered from the side. He looked for me before he faced the altar. Then Rachel came through the doors on Bill's arm. The ceremony was short. There were readings, vows, and one moment when Owen tried to put Rachel's ring on the wrong hand. She whispered something that made him laugh. Bill cried without hiding it. Louise cried while appearing deeply annoyed at the tears. When the officiant spoke about those absent in body but present in love, Owen looked at Paul's photograph. I looked at Owen. Afterward, the chapel filled with movement. People hugged across pews. Dana directed everyone toward the restaurant. I remained seated long enough to avoid being swept into traffic. Louise crossed the aisle. That was lovely, she said. It was. She looked at Paul's photograph. He had kind eyes. He could be very irritating. I don't see why those things would conflict. I glanced at her. A small smile appeared. Then Marlene approached, asking Louise where the shuttle pickup had moved. Louise turned automatically toward me. She stopped herself. The attendant near the lobby will know, she said. It was a tiny thing. It mattered. At the reception, I sat with Carol, Frank, Marianne, and 2 of Owen's friends. No one asked me to check the gifts, find a coat, or hold a phone. When Susan asked whether I knew when the shuttle returned to the hotel, I pointed to the printed sign beside the exit. The food arrived without my supervision. The candles stayed lit. People found their own chairs. I had spent so many years moving around events that sitting through one felt almost illicit. During dinner, I caught myself scanning the room for empty glasses. Carol kicked me lightly under the table. Stop working, she whispered. I'm observing. You're inventorying. I made myself eat. Owen and Rachel moved through the room together. He stopped at our table and hugged Carol, Frank, and Marianne. When he reached me, he rested a hand on my shoulder. All good? He asked. It was an ordinary question. It could have meant the food, the seating, the ceremony, or us. Yes, I said. Right now. He nodded. Later, music started. Rachel danced with Bill. Owen stood near the edge of the floor watching. There were no scheduled parent dances, a decision Rachel and Owen had made before any of the conflict. I was grateful not to wonder whether mine had been forgotten. Frank asked me to dance. He moved exactly like Paul, which meant mostly from the knees, with complete confidence and very little connection to the music. "You're stepping on me," I said. "That's how you know I'm leading. No one knows you're leading." We laughed. Over Frank's shoulder, I saw Owen watching. For one dangerous second, I wanted him to regret every moment he had failed to picture me. Then Rachel took his hand and he turned toward his wife. The wish passed. Not completely, but enough for me to keep dancing. Frank released me when the song ended and bowed so low I thought he might need assistance getting back up. "You've improved," I told him. "I had an excellent partner. You stepped on both her feet. Strong women intimidate me. You were married to Diane for 34 years. My point stands. Diane, who was watching from our table, lifted her glass without smiling. Frank hurried back to her. The room grew louder as dinner gave way to dancing. Jackets came off. Louise's centerpiece arrangement was moved aside to make room for half-empty glasses. Nobody knocked over a chair. I went to the restroom and found Rachel there alone, standing in front of the mirror with both hands braced against the counter. For one second, I thought she was sick. Then she looked at me in the mirror. My face hurts. From smiling? Is it obvious? You're at your own wedding. People will forgive you for looking tired. My mother won't. Your mother is dancing with Thomas. Rachel turned. We could see a corner of the dance floor through the open door. Louise was moving with energetic precision while Thomas tried to follow. "I did not know she could do that," Rachel said. Neither did Thomas. She laughed and pressed 2 fingers to each cheek. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Yes, I think so." "That's a dangerous answer. I keep waiting for someone to tell me what I forgot. They'll wait until tomorrow." Comforting. I dampened a paper towel and handed it to her. She pressed it beneath her eyes. "Thank you for today," she said. "I didn't do anything. That was sort of the point." We looked at each other in the mirror. Then Rachel said, "He was really hurt last night." "I know. I'm not asking you to apologize." "All right. I'm also not saying he was wrong to be hurt. I know that too." She dropped the paper towel into the trash. "You two are exhausting. You're legally related to both of us now." Her expression changed. A quiet happiness came over her face, separate from the performance of the day. "I am," she said. I hugged her. When we returned to the reception, Owen was looking for her. He touched the small of her back when she reached him, and the tension left his shoulders. That was the last close look I had at him for the rest of the evening. By 10:30, my shoes had become instruments of punishment. I found Carol near the dessert table putting 2 wrapped cookies into her purse. "Those are favors," she said before I asked. I didn't say anything. "Your face did. We spent 6 weeks moving those favors around. Then I've earned 2. I told her I was leaving." She studied me. "You don't want to stay for the send-off? The send-off is at midnight. You're 68, not Cinderella. My shoes disagree." I found Rachel first. She hugged me and told me to drive carefully. Owen was speaking to a group of friends near the bar. I waited at the edge until he noticed me. "I'm heading home," I said. "Already? It's almost 11. "Oh." He looked toward Rachel, then back at me. "The ceremony was beautiful," I said. "Thanks. I'm glad I came." The words sounded wrong the moment I said them, too close to the insult he had carried since the rehearsal. His face tightened. "Why wouldn't you have?" "I didn't mean it that way." "How did you mean it?" "I mean, I'm glad I was here for you." He glanced at the people waiting behind him. "Okay." I kissed his cheek. He accepted it without turning toward me. Outside, both shuttles waited beneath the parking lot lights. One driver stood near the door checking names from a list. The other drank coffee behind the wheel. The system worked without me. That should have felt like victory. Instead, I walked to my car alone with my shoes in one hand. At home, I hung the blue dress over the guest room door and left my purse on the floor. Paul's watch had stopped at 11:17. I tapped the face. Nothing. "Of course," I said. The next morning, I took the watch to the kitchen and opened the junk drawer for the tiny screwdriver set. Then I remembered I had promised to meet Carol at the diner. The private room had beige walls, bright windows, and paper napkins wrapped around silverware. A handwritten sign near the door said, "Owen Rachel Farewell Breakfast." Louise's prediction of cash bar energy had been accurate, though at 10 in the morning the cash bar was mostly coffee. People ordered from a menu with 6 choices. Checks arrived by table. No one appeared traumatized. I sat with Frank, Diane, Carol, Marlene, and Susan. Marlene ordered pancakes and announced that Cody had sent her a message asking whether the wedding went well. "You gave the driver your number?" Susan asked. "He had a nice smile. He was 27. He can still have a nice smile." At the next table, Bill laughed so hard he coughed. Owen and Rachel arrived late, holding hands. Everyone cheered. Rachel looked embarrassed. Owen looked tired, but happy. For an hour, the room belonged to them rather than to the conflict. They visited each table. Rachel showed Louise a photograph someone had taken during the ceremony. Bill complained that the scrambled eggs were dry and then finished all of them. When Owen came to our table, Marlene raised her coffee cup. To family, professional drivers, and Cody, there was laughter. Owen's eyes met mine. I looked down at my plate. He moved on before I could decide whether that was cowardice or mercy. The breakfast ended at noon. Rachel and Owen were leaving that afternoon for a short trip before returning to work. I hugged them both beside the diner entrance. "Have a wonderful time," I said. Rachel thanked me. Owen said, "We will." He did not hug me back until I had begun to release him. At home, I replaced the battery in Paul's watch. It started ticking immediately. I wore it for the rest of the day even though I had nowhere to go. The usual Sunday dinner did not happen. Owen and Rachel were away, so I had not expected it. The following Sunday, they had plans with Louise and Bill. The Sunday after that, nobody mentioned dinner at all. I bought a small chicken anyway. At 4, I seasoned it and put it in the oven. At 4:30, I caught myself checking the driveway. By 5, the house smelled like rosemary and garlic. I ate one leg at the kitchen table and wrapped the rest for later. The silence was not complete. Rachel sent a thank you message for their gift. Owen replied to a photograph Carol posted from the wedding. He did not call me while driving. He did not ask about food, appointments, or missing papers. I told myself this was what I had asked for. That was not exactly true. I had asked for a relationship that did not depend on being useful. Owen had responded by removing the relationship along with the usefulness. 9 days after the unused chicken, he came through my front door at 7 in the evening. I was in the living room reading. He used his key, knocked while entering, and called, "Mom." I closed the book. "In here." He walked in, wearing his work clothes and no coat. His hair was damp from a light rain. He did not sit. "We need to talk." "All right." "Rachel thinks I owe you an apology." "That's not a promising beginning. I didn't say she was wrong. You didn't say she was right." He paced to the window, then turned. "Do you know how the rehearsal looked?" "Late. It looked like my own mother wouldn't help me." "To whom?" "Everyone." "Everyone found out?" "Louise knew. Rachel knew. The wedding party knew why I was on the phone." "What did you tell them?" "That you weren't answering." "That was true." He stared at me. "You made me look abandoned." The word entered the room and changed its temperature. I placed the book on the table. "You were surrounded by people," I said. "You know what I mean. I know what abandoned means. Don't do that. Your father died. You called me from the hospital parking garage because you couldn't remember where you parked. I stayed on the phone while you walked every level. That was not abandonment. I'm not talking about Dad. I drove to your apartment every night for 2 weeks because you couldn't sleep there alone. That was not abandonment. Stop. I helped you pack his clothes. I found you a therapist. I sat outside the office because you asked me to. Do not use that word because I didn't rescue a rehearsal." Owen's face flushed. "This is exactly why nobody can argue with you. You bring out the worst thing that ever happened and lay it on the table. You brought out abandonment. I was talking about how it felt. So am I." He turned away and rubbed his forehead. Rain touched the windows in thin, irregular taps. Finally, he said, "I needed you, and you ignored me to prove a point. I ignored you because I had already said no. You wanted me to experience consequences. I wanted my answer to remain an answer. That's the same thing." "No. You knew what would happen. I knew 3 adults would have to get another ride. You knew I would be embarrassed." "Yes." The words seemed to strike him. I continued before I lost the nerve. "You think loving you means preventing every uncomfortable thing that might happen to you. Maybe I helped teach you that. But I can't keep doing it. This wasn't every uncomfortable thing. It was my wedding. It was your rehearsal. And the driver made a mistake. Not me. You were available. I was nearby. That is not the same as available." He laughed without humor. "You've really worked out all the language. I've had quiet Sundays." That hurt him. I saw it. Good, a small part of me thought. I was ashamed of that part, but it existed. Owen said, "Rachel thinks I treated you like an employee. Rachel should not have to explain you to me. She says I owe you an apology for the schedule. You do. And what do you owe me?" The honest answer came slowly. "I owe you an apology for the way I used Paul in that first argument." He waited. "And I'm sorry you were frightened and embarrassed when the shuttle failed. That's not an apology for what you did. No." He nodded as if I had confirmed something. "You only noticed I wasn't helping," I said, "because the work stayed undone. You didn't notice I was absent from the rehearsal until you needed a driver." "That isn't true." "Then tell me when you noticed." His mouth opened. Nothing came. I stood. I attended the dinner. I attended the wedding. I stood beside you in photographs. I walked you to the chapel doors. You keep calling that abandonment because the one place I was absent was the place where you expected me to work. He looked at me as if I had slapped him. "I can't do this," he said. "You came here. That was a mistake." He walked into the hall and reached for the door. "Owen." He stopped. "Please call before using your key from now on." His hand remained on the doorknob. Then he took the key ring from his pocket, worked my house key loose, and placed it on the hall table. "There," he said. "One more thing you don't have to worry about me asking for." The door closed behind him. His key lay beside the bowl where I kept spare batteries. I stood there listening to the rain and understood that a boundary could protect a life while still breaking your heart. I left the key on the hall table overnight. The next morning, I moved it to the kitchen drawer where I kept takeout menus, rubber bands, and instruction booklets for appliances I no longer owned. I did not put it back on my ring. I did not throw it away. Rachel called that afternoon. "Did you ask Owen for his key?" I asked him to call before using it. He said you wanted it back. He decided that part. She sighed. "He's very angry. So am I." "I know." She waited, perhaps expecting me to ask what he had said when he got home. I didn't. "I'm not calling to take sides," she said. "Good. I don't want to be between you." "Then don't stand there." "That's easy for you to say." "No, it isn't." Silence settled between us. Finally, Rachel said, "The wedding photographs should be ready in a few weeks. I'm looking forward to them." "That's all you have to say? What would you like me to say?" "I don't know. We should stop asking each other that question." She laughed, though she was close to crying. "I love him," she said. "So do I. He's not a bad person." "I know. He did a bad thing. I know that too. And you hurt him." "Yes." She took a breath. "All right." Rachel. "What?" "You don't have to convince me he's worth loving. That isn't the issue. What is? Whether he can love me when I'm not making his life easier." She did not answer. After we hung up, I took the key from the drawer and held it in my palm. Then I put it back. The Sunday dinners did not resume. At first, I preserved the space for them without admitting it. I avoided making plans after 4. I bought enough food for 3. I kept the dining table clear in case Owen and Rachel appeared with an apology, a bottle of wine, or even one of Owen's questions about cooked chicken. They did not appear. On the third empty Sunday, I drove to Carol's house with a pot of soup. She opened the door and stared at it. "Is that my soup pot? You left it at my house. Last year, it needed time." She took the pot. "What happened? Why does something have to happen? You return borrowed containers only under emotional pressure. We ate in her kitchen." I told her about the key. Carol listened without interrupting, which meant she considered the situation serious. When I finished, she said, "You could call him." I could. "Do you want to?" "Yes." "Are you going to?" "No." She tore a roll in half. "You two have confused silence with dignity. Maybe. You're allowed to reach out without surrendering, and he's allowed to. I didn't say he wasn't. I knew she was right. I also knew that if I called too soon, Owen would hear the call as proof that the fight had ended the way our fights always ended. I could not tolerate his distance, so I would restore closeness without requiring change. That Sunday, I let silence remain silence. Thanksgiving was held at Owen and Rachel's townhouse. The invitation came from Rachel by email. She asked me to bring 1 apple pie and specifically wrote, "No additional dishes needed." I brought 1 pie. It required more self-control than the rehearsal. Their townhouse smelled like sage, roasted onions, and the expensive candle Louise had lit near the entry. Bill was in the kitchen carving the turkey. Louise arranged serving spoons by size. Frank and Diane sat in the living room with Carol discussing a highway construction project none of them understood, but all of them opposed. Owen took my coat. "Hi, Mom." "Hi." He kissed my cheek. I could feel the pause before he did it. "Pie?" he asked. 1. He looked into the bag as if a casserole might be hiding beneath it. Rachel said 1. "I know." He carried it to the kitchen. At dinner, I sat between Carol and Bill. Owen sat at the opposite end with Rachel. We spoke about safe subjects, the weather, Frank's new glasses, Louise's claim that turkey should rest for exactly 35 minutes. When Bill passed me the potatoes, he said, "Excellent light bulbs today." I laughed hard enough to make Louise ask what she had missed. "Nothing," Bill and I said together. Owen looked at me from across the table. For a second, he smiled. Then he remembered himself. After dinner, I began gathering plates automatically. Rachel touched my wrist. "Leave them. I'm going to the kitchen. You're a guest." The word felt unfamiliar. I set the plates down. Louise heard us. "There's nothing wrong with helping." "No," I said. "There isn't." Rachel looked alarmed, but Louise only lifted 2 plates. "Then help me," she said. "I dislike loading their dishwasher." We stood side by side at the kitchen counter scraping plates. After a minute, Louise said, "I understand you and Owen are not speaking. We spoke today." "You know what I mean?" "Yes." She placed a fork into the dishwasher basket with unnecessary force. "He's been difficult. He has. Rachel says I should stay out of it. Rachel is wise." Louise glanced toward the dining room. "I assumed you had agreed to the transportation." "I know. I also assumed Owen had made space for you in the ceremony. I know that too. I should have checked." I looked at her. She kept her eyes on the plate she was scraping. "That isn't the same as an apology," she said. "No, I'm not ready for one." "Then don't give one." She nodded. "Good." We loaded the rest of the dishwasher in silence. It was the closest we had come to liking each other. When I left, Owen returned my coat. Our fingers touched on the collar. "Drive carefully," he said. Carefully. His mouth moved as if Professor might follow. It didn't. The wedding photographs arrived the first week of December. Rachel sent a link to the full gallery. I sat at my kitchen table and opened every image. There was Paul's photograph beside the altar, Louise crying, Bill laughing during the vows, Carol stealing a cookie in the background of a formal portrait. There were 2 pictures of Owen and me. In the first, his arm was around me and both of us were trying to satisfy the photographer. In the second, he was attempting not to laugh while I looked up at him. I downloaded the second one. For years, the photographs I had with Owen showed activity. I stood behind a birthday cake holding a knife. I carried a tray at his graduation dinner. I held his coat at a holiday party. Even in pictures, I was usually reaching for something outside the frame. In the wedding photograph, my hands were empty. I printed it and leaned it against the fruit bowl. I did not frame it. Carol saw it the next Sunday. "That's good," she said. "It is. You should send it to him. He has the gallery." That wasn't my suggestion. I moved the photograph farther from the bananas. "Did you come here to critique my fruit display?" "I came to ask if you want to go away after Christmas." "Where?" "The coast. In December. That's why rooms are cheap." "What would we do? Look at cold water, eat, complain." "We can do 2 of those things here. The water is better there." I said yes before I could invent a reason not to. We spent 4 nights at a small inn where the radiators clanged and the ocean looked like hammered metal. We walked the empty boardwalk in heavy coats. Carol lost a glove, accused the wind of theft, and bought another pair from a souvenir shop for 3 times what they were worth. On the second evening, we ate seafood beside a window while rain blurred the harbor lights. "Do you regret it?" Carol asked. "The shrimp? The wedding?" I knew what she meant, sometimes. "Which part?" "The call." "You would answer now?" "I don't know. That isn't regret." "What is it?" "Grief." I looked out at the water. "Those are not opposites," I said. "No." When I returned home, I found a message from Rachel wishing me a Happy New Year. There was none from Owen. I sent him one. "Happy New Year. I love you." His reply arrived 3 hours later. "You too." I did not ask which half he meant. A week later, I stopped at the library and saw a flyer for a community furniture workshop. Restore, repair, reimagine. It said above a photograph of a chair with 1 leg missing. I disliked the slogan, but liked the chair. The workshop met Tuesday evenings in an old vocational building behind the community center. The instructor, Marcy Cole, was a retired cabinet maker with short gray hair and no patience for sentimental furniture. On the first night, she asked each of us why we had come. A man named Leonard wanted to repair a dresser his former wife had left behind. A woman named Priya had bought 6 dining chairs online and discovered none of them sat level. I had brought a small maple table from a thrift store. Marcy inspected it. "Why this one?" "It looked useful." She raised 1 eyebrow. "That all?" It was $20. Better answer. The table had cloudy varnish, a split near 1 corner, and 2 rings from wet glasses. I spent 3 weeks removing the old finish. Sanding made my shoulders ache. Glue escaped every clamp I placed. My first stain turned the top orange, and Marcy made me strip it again. Nothing depended on my succeeding. That was part of the pleasure. On Tuesday evenings, no one called me Mom. No one asked whether I had scissors, directions, or room in my car. People asked my opinion about wood grain and then disagreed with it. Priya invited me for coffee after class. Leonard began saving me the least damaged sandpaper. Marcy told me I pressed too hard. "You can't force the surface," she said. "You'll make low spots. I'm trying to remove the damage. You're trying to erase the whole table." I gave her a look. She shrugged. "Wood doesn't care about your metaphor." By February, the maple table stood level. The old rings were gone, but the split remained visible beneath the new finish. Marcy said I could fill it if I wanted. I left it. Rachel came by one Saturday to see the table. She had called first. She walked around it, touching the smooth edge. "You did this?" With aggressive supervision. "It's beautiful. It looked useful." She smiled, then noticed the wedding photograph beside the fruit bowl. "You printed that one?" "Yes. Owen likes it too." My heart reacted before my face did. "He told you?" "He ordered a copy." I looked at the table. Rachel sat down. "He misses you. He knows my number. He thinks you want him to admit he was a terrible son. I want him to admit he treated me terribly. That distinction is probably clearer to you. It should be clear to him." She folded her hands. "He's ashamed. Anger is more comfortable." "Yes." I sat across from her. "How are you?" I asked. The question surprised her. "Married," she said. "How is that? Ordinary, complicated." "Good, that sounds right." She told me about their leaking kitchen faucet, an argument over closet space, and the diner mailing them a souvenir menu because Marlene had written a glowing review. She did not tell me what Owen said about me. I did not ask. When Rachel left, she hugged me and said, "Thank you for not making me choose. He's your husband. You're his mother. Those are different relationships. You'd be surprised how often they want the same chair." I laughed. Sunday dinners still did not return. Spring came slowly. The maple table moved beside my living room window. I began restoring a dining chair whose joints loosened whenever anyone leaned back. Carol and I planned another trip. Then one Thursday evening, my doorbell rang. I had just come home from the workshop. Sawdust clung to my sweater, and my phone was still silenced in my purse. Through the glass, I saw Owen standing on the porch with 2 paper bags in his hands. He did not use a key. He rang the bell again and waited. I opened the door. Owen lifted the paper bags slightly. I called. My phone was in my purse. I figured. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." I looked at the bags. "They're not boxes," he said. "I can see that. And I'm not asking you to assemble anything." "What are they?" "Dinner." "Why?" He took a breath. "Can I come in before we do this?" I stepped aside. He entered carefully, as if the floor plan might have changed since October. He still had no key. He took off his coat, waited until I pointed toward the hook, and hung it there. "You have sawdust in your hair," he said. "I was at the workshop. Rachel told me about the table." He looked into the living room and saw it beside the window. The maple top shone warmly beneath the lamp. One of the paper bags began leaking grease onto his hand. "Kitchen," I said. He followed me. The bags contained Chinese food from the restaurant near his old apartment. He had ordered vegetable dumplings, beef with broccoli, fried rice, and the eggplant dish I used to bring him when he worked late. "You remembered," I said. "You always ordered it. For you. You ate half. You never finished anything green." We unpacked the containers. Owen took plates from the correct cabinet without asking. He also took 2 wine glasses, reconsidered, and put them back. "I didn't bring wine," he said. "I have some. Do you want it? Do you?" "Not really." "Then tea." He filled the kettle. There was something almost unbearable about watching him perform these ordinary movements in my kitchen after months of imagining them. I sat at the table. The wedding photograph remained beside the fruit bowl, now in a simple silver frame I had bought but not admitted buying. Owen noticed it. "You framed it." "Eventually. I ordered the same one." Rachel told me. He opened a drawer looking for serving spoons, found the wrong one, and closed it. "Second drawer," I said. "Right." When the food was arranged, he sat across from me. Neither of us touched it. "What do you need?" I asked. "Nothing. No missing papers?" "No." "Rachel didn't send you?" "No." "Broken appliance." "Mom, I'm checking." "I know." He rubbed his hands over his knees. "I almost brought the wedding album," he said. "Then I thought that would look like evidence." "Evidence of what?" "I'm getting there." The kettle began to whistle. Owen stood too quickly, grateful for the interruption. He made tea, brought the mugs to the table, and sat again. "I looked through the album last week," he said. "The actual printed one. Rachel had it made. I know what a wedding album is. Can you let me be bad at this for a minute?" I wrapped both hands around my mug. "All right." He looked at the framed photograph. "I like that picture because you're not doing anything." I waited. That sounded bad. "Keep going. You aren't holding my jacket or fixing my tie. Your hands are empty. You're just standing beside me. I remember." I started looking for other pictures like that. His eyes dropped to the table. "I have hundreds of pictures of you. In almost all of them, you're doing something for somebody. At graduation, you're carrying trays. At my 30th birthday, you're cutting the cake. At the first dinner with Rachel's parents, you're in the kitchen in every picture except one. And in that one, you're coming through the door with more plates. I like plates, I know." A weak smile passed between us. Owen continued, I kept thinking about what you said, that I only noticed you were missing when the work didn't get done. You noticed me at the wedding, after you forced me to. I stiffened. No, he said quickly. I don't mean forced like you did something wrong. I mean I had to think about where you were because you stopped making it easy not to. The kettle clicked as it cooled. I wrote standby driver, he said. Dana didn't choose it. Rachel didn't choose it. I did. I know, I put you in the 5th row because it was close to the exit. I didn't put you in the processional or the first photo list because I thought you'd be moving things. I told myself you preferred it. I don't enjoy being stared at. I know, but I didn't ask. No. I sent the boxes to your house. I told Louise you could handle airport rides. I told Dana your house was available for brunch because of a thumbs up. The thumb was reckless. He almost laughed. Then his face tightened again. When you said you wouldn't drive, I removed you from the schedule on purpose. I had known that. Hearing him say it still hurt. I told myself I was doing exactly what you asked. No job, no name. But I wanted to punish you. Why? Because I felt rejected. You were rejecting me. I know that now. He looked directly at me. I'm sorry, Mom. I said nothing. He swallowed. I'm sorry for the schedule. I'm sorry I treated your time, your car, and your house like they were mine to use. I'm sorry I made Rachel clean up what I did. I'm sorry I moved your seat only after she made me look at it. And I'm sorry I came here afterward and called you abandoning because I wanted you to apologize before I did. The specificity of it left me nowhere to hide. I looked down at the tea. Owen said, I made being useful the price of being close to me. My eyes filled. I blinked hard. That's not entirely yours, I said. I know you're going to explain why this is your fault too. It isn't all my fault. Good. But I made myself useful before you could decide whether you wanted me there. He frowned. After Paul died, I said, I was afraid grief would separate us. You had your apartment, your work, your life. I had a quiet house and too much food, so I made sure there was always a reason for you to call. You didn't make me call, no, but I answered every feeling with a task. You told me your apartment felt too quiet and I brought you a radio. I still have that radio. You said you missed your father, and I asked whether you needed his winter coat. You couldn't talk about him, neither could you. No, we became very good at solving the wrong problems. He leaned back. I thought that was how we talked, he said. It was. Then you changed the rules without telling me. I tried to tell you. With the schedule. Yes. And then at the rehearsal. Yes. His face tightened again. I'm still hurt about that. I know. I don't think I was wrong to call. You weren't wrong to ask once. I called 3 times. You did. You listened. Yes. He waited. I had spent months defending that decision. I still believed it was necessary. That did not make every part of me noble. A small part of me wanted you to feel what it was like when I wasn't available, I said. Owen's eyes moved away. I didn't want the wedding ruined, I continued. I knew it wouldn't be. I knew those people were safe. But yes, I wanted the inconvenience to land. I wanted my no to cost something because otherwise you would never believe it. That's hard to hear. It's hard to say. Are you sorry? I'm sorry you were frightened. I'm sorry I used your father in our first argument. I'm sorry I took some satisfaction in the fact that you couldn't make the problem disappear through me. He waited for more. I am not sorry I stayed in Carol's house. He nodded slowly. I didn't think you would be. Can you live with that? I don't know yet. That's honest. He looked at the food. It's getting cold. It was cold 10 minutes ago. We began to eat. The first few minutes were awkward. Chopsticks clicked against containers. Owen put too much mustard on a dumpling and coughed until his eyes watered. You always do that, I said. It looks mild. It's mustard. It's not trying to trick you. When he stopped coughing, he asked about the workshop. I told him about Marcy, Priya's crooked chairs, and Leonard's dresser. I showed him the split in the maple table. "You left that?" he asked. "On purpose. It looks unfinished." "It is finished." He bent closer to examine it. I waited for him to suggest filler or ask whether I wanted help. He didn't. "It's good," he said. "Thank you." We carried our plates back to the kitchen. Owen rinsed his and then mine. "Can I ask something?" he said. "You just did." He rolled his eyes. "Can we have Sunday dinner again? Not the way we did. What does that mean?" "It means not every Sunday. It means you don't arrive expecting me to feed you because the calendar says I'm your mother. I brought dinner tonight. You did. I can cook. You can damage a saucepan. Marianne has told that story enough." I dried my hands. "What if we start with breakfast once a month?" I asked. "Breakfast?" "Neutral territory. Nobody has to host. Are you afraid I'll use your toaster? I've seen you explain one." He smiled. "Once a month," he said, "and maybe dinner sometimes." Maybe. The word disappointed him, but he accepted it. That mattered more than a bigger promise would have. He reached into his pocket and placed my house key on the counter. "I brought this. I thought you gave it back." "I did." "I took it from the drawer at Thanksgiving." I stared at him. "You went through my drawer? I needed a rubber band. You stole your own returned key while looking for a rubber band? When you say it that way, there is no other way. I didn't use it. That is not the point." He laughed, then stopped when he saw my face. "Sorry, you're right." He pushed the key toward me. "Do you want me to have it again?" "Not yet." His hand remained beside it for a second. Then he nodded. "Okay." He did not accuse me of rejecting him. He did not make a speech about trust. He left the key on the counter. At the front door, he put on his coat. "What do we say now?" he asked. "I don't know. Are we fine yet?" "No." He smiled faintly. "Good." "Good?" "I'd know you were lying." I opened the door. He stepped onto the porch, then turned back. "I love you." "I love you too." He walked to his car. I stood in the doorway until he drove away, then returned to the kitchen. The key remained beside the takeout containers. I placed it back in the drawer. The next morning, Owen sent me a message. "Saturday breakfast? I can pick you up at 11 if you'd like." I read it twice. There was no assumption hidden inside the question, no task attached, no urgency. He had remembered to leave room for my answer. I wrote yes. Our first breakfast lasted 43 minutes. Owen arrived at 10:50 because he had always inherited my fear of being late. He rang the doorbell and waited. At the diner, we discussed bad coffee, road construction, and whether Rachel was correct that towels needed to be folded in thirds. We did not discuss the wedding. The next month, we did. The month after that, Rachel came with him. Nothing returned to normal. That was the relief. Owen still called with practical questions, but he began asking whether I had time before launching into them. Sometimes I said no. He disliked it without treating it as abandonment. I sometimes offered help because I wanted to help. He learned to hear an offer without expanding it. One evening, he came to see the dining chair I had repaired. He sat in it before I could warn him the glue was still curing. "If it breaks, you're fixing it," I said. "I thought you were the furniture expert. I'm unavailable." He stood immediately. By summer, breakfast had become twice a month. Sunday dinner returned occasionally, sometimes at my house, sometimes at theirs, and once at the diner with cash bar energy. The house key stayed in my drawer. I wasn't protecting it. I simply wasn't ready to give it back, and Owen had learned that readiness could not be scheduled. On a warm Saturday morning, his message arrived while I was fastening Paul's watch. "On my way. Want me to drive?" I looked at my car keys hanging beside the door. "Yes," I wrote. "I'd like that." Owen pulled into the driveway at 11 on the dot. He did not honk. He came to the door and rang the bell. I picked up my purse and left my keys on the hook. For once, my son had come because he wanted my company. For once, that was the only place I needed to be.